Chapter 130. On the fourth floor of the crafting peak, Gu Tianjian and Zhu Siming looked at Nie Wufeng, who was wearing a green inner armor, with expectant gazes. They had finished refining this magic tool 3 days ago. Today was the day that Nie Wufeng's spirit root disappeared. Only today could they test whether or not this spirit-controlling magic tool was successful. After Nie Wufeng put on the inner armor, he sensed it for a while and quickly turned into a gust of wind. His figure flickered in and out, drifting in and out of the metal pavilion. He actively released the mana in his body, which was abnormally dense. Seeing this, Gu Tianjian was pleasantly surprised. He said, "There really is no problem with this inner armor." Zhu Siming felt Nie Wufeng's mana and couldn't help but say, "I didn't expect senior apprentice brother Nie's mana to be so pure. If I'm not wrong, it's 30% higher than ours. No wonder senior apprentice brother's wind-type spells are so powerful." Gu Tianjian nodded and said, "Ever since senior apprentice brother recultivated his mana more than 100 years ago, his newly cultivated mana has become even purer. Senior apprentice brother has such pure mana and a consciousness comparable to the early core formation stage. With this spirit-controlling inner armor, he will definitely be able to form his gold core." Not long after, accompanied by a burst of laughter, Nie Wufeng stopped and cupped his fist towards Gu Tianjian and Zhu Siming. He said, "Junior apprentice brothers, thank you for your help in the past 100 years. If it weren't for you, this magic tool definitely wouldn't have been successfully refined." Gu Tianjian shook his head and said, "Senior apprentice brother Nie, we've been friends for more than 100 years. There's no need to be so distant." Zhu Siming also said, "As long as senior apprentice brother can successfully form his gold core, it will be the greatest reward for us. After all, Martial Uncle Linghu and Uncle Zhang are already more than 400 years old. If no new core formation stage cultivators appear, our crafting peak may have a core formation stage martial uncle from another peak. When that time comes, not only will there be a lot of problems, but without a core formation stage crafting master, there won't be any cultivators from other sects who will spend a lot of money to refine magic tools." When Nie Wufeng heard the words core formation stage martial uncle from another peak, his eyes flashed, and he said, "Please don't worry. When this spirit-controlling inner armor is completed, I've fulfilled one of my greatest wishes. My spiritual sense is incomparably clear, causing the mana in my body is involuntarily beginning to crystallize. I have to go find Martial Uncle Zhang, or else I won't be able to suppress it." Following that, he left. He's red-robed, he's red-robed, he's will, and he's his core. Core, he's will's core. Is he, core is core, was. Gu Tianjian looked at the kind-looking old man and asked in shock, "Senior, are you going to form your core?" Zhu Siming shook his head and said, "Not so fast. You all know that my technique is special. It complements my spiritual sense. The reason I haven't been able to break through to the great circle of foundation establishment all these years is because my spiritual sense hasn't improved. But a while ago, I heard Lu Shizhi talk about his body tempering technique. The part of it that trains the nerves is very important to me. I have to hurry back and study it. Combined with the second half of the spirit sensing technique, I'm sure I'll gain something." Gu Tianjian frowned and said, "Senior, will this study take a long time?" Zhu Siming laughed and said, "Based on my understanding of spiritual sense and the spirit sensing technique, a few years is enough. My remaining lifespan is more than enough for me to form my core. Then I'll congratulate Senior on your success. Junior, I'll take my leave first. In the future, I'll have to trouble you with the matters of the crafting peak." Looking at the departing figure of Senior Zhu, Gu Tianjian frowned and said, "I also have to spend some time cultivating. Although the art of crafting is attractive, it can increase one's lifespan. But since Senior Nie isn't here and Senior Zhu is in closed-door cultivation, I'll have to deal with many trivial matters of the crafting peak. Maybe my master will even let me be the peak master of the crafting peak. This way, I'll have even less time." Then Gu Tianjian thought of something and his eyes lit up. With a plan in mind, he also walked out. Not long after, Gu Tianjian appeared at the highest point of the second floor for aura refining disciples, outside a rather large cave. He pondered for a moment and muttered a few words. Then, he threw a sound-transmitting talisman. At the same time, two faintly discernible lights flew out from the top of the crafting peak and quickly landed on the edge of the forbidden formation. Two figures appeared. One was the old man surnamed Zhang, who had a core formation cultivation, and the other was Niao Wufeng. The old man muttered, "Zhu Siming really did discover the problem with this forbidden formation. That guy's divine sense is almost the same as your martial Uncle Linghu's." After saying that, he took out a special forbidden formation and tapped it a few times. A small opening appeared for the two of them to pass through. Then, the old man called out to Niao Wufeng and flew outside. After that, the opening was restored to its original state. The moment the two of them broke through the forbidden formation, an old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion stood in the middle of the Yang clan's mountain peak. Looking at the direction the two of them left, he nodded silently and muttered incessantly. In the following half a year, several major events occurred in the Yang clan's crafting peak. One of them was that the crafting peak's peak lord, Niao Wufeng, was nearing the end of his lifespan. He had failed to break through to the core formation stage and had died. This caused the Foundation establishment disciples who remembered Niao Wufeng's reputation to feel deep regret. However, most of the Qi condensation disciples didn't feel much about this. The Qi condensation disciples of the other peaks only knew that Niao Wufeng was an old man nearing the end of his lifespan. It was very normal for him to fail to break through to the core formation stage at such an age. However, there was another matter in the weapon refining peak that shocked all the low-level disciples. That was Niao Wufeng's disciple, Qin Yushu, who had directly broken through to the Foundation establishment stage without the help of the Foundation establishment pill, 10 years after entering the peak Qi refining stage. Compared to Niao Wufeng's reputation, Qin Yushu was more famous among the Qi condensation disciples because of his profound dermic powers. Regardless of whether it was the use of dermic weapons or the release of dermic spells, the power was much stronger than that of the other disciples who had reached the peak stage. Qin Yushu's reluctance to break through to the Foundation establishment stage even caused the other low-level disciples to think that he had some flaws. Even if he had a Foundation establishment pill, it would be difficult for him to enter the Foundation establishment stage. Who would have known that Qin Yushu's ambitions were far and wide? One had to know that in the entire Wei nation, such a genius had not appeared for many years. No one knew what kind of strength he would have after breaking through to the Foundation establishment stage. Not long after Qin Yushu broke through, Qin Yushu became the peak lord of the crafting peak under the recommendation of the two weapon refinement masters of the crafting peak. The strange thing was that none of the other 30 or so Foundation establishment disciples of the crafting peak objected. In a short period of time, Qin Yushu became the young disciple of the Yang clan who was in the limelight, and Niao Wufeng's matter was gradually forgotten. At the highest level of the Qingyang Peak, a middle-aged man with a hooked nose sat in a cave. He held a voice transmission talisman in his hand and muttered, "Niao Wufeng, oh Niao Wufeng, you still haven't taken that step. If you had advanced to the core formation stage, I would definitely have been below you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have cooperated with outsiders 100 years ago." Then he laughed again. "This disciple of yours is exactly the same as you back then, showing off his abilities. Could it be that you didn't tell him about the loss you suffered?" The middle-aged man recalled the matter from many years ago. He smiled and muttered to himself, "It's no wonder that you didn't tell him. If it were me, I would also be ashamed to speak of such a loss." After saying this, the middle-aged man pondered for a while and muttered a few words in a low voice. Then, he threw out a voice transmission talisman. Not long after, a rather steady-looking man walked in and respectfully said, "Uncle, do you have any orders?" The middle-aged man faintly said, "Pass down the message that the Luo clan's ancestral worship ceremony will be held in Luo Yun Valley, where our clan's ancestral shrine is located. You can arrange other matters." "Yes, uncle. I'll take my leave first." It turned out that this middle-aged man was the Luo clan's core formation stage ancestor, Luo Yuechi. He was the youngest core formation stage cultivator in the Yang clan. He entered the core formation stage about 150 years ago when Niao Wufeng first showed off his abilities. In the past 6 months, in addition to Qin Yushu, there was another disciple named Lu Kuan who was well known by the low-level disciples in the sect. This was because this person actually pawned a Foundation Establishment pill and took on 3 red name missions in the Spirit Demon Valley alone. However, most of the disciples believed that Lu Kuan had companions outside the sect who came to complete the missions together. He could use this method to earn a lot of contribution points. There were also disciples who believed that this person overestimated his own strength. Perhaps he had already fallen in the Spirit Demon Valley. La Xianhua also knew that the person who saved them that day was Lu Kuan. However, he somewhat believed that Lu Kuan carried out the mission alone. This person easily defeated 5 late-stage, Qi refining stage cultivators by himself. His strength could be said to be terrifying. Of course, Lu Kuan didn't know that after he left, so many things happened in the Spirit Demon Valley. At this time, he was already in a huge tree hole in the Spirit Demon Valley. Next to him, there was a fat black bear lying on the ground. This bear's limbs were intact, and there were no injuries. However, if one looked at its head, one would find that one of its eyes was empty. There was a bloody hole, as if it was directly pierced by a sharp weapon. Lu Kuan adjusted his breathing. With a wave of his hand, he put the black bear's corpse into his storage bag. The battle with this black bear just now had consumed almost all of his FA. The strength of a top-ranked demon beast was indeed not to be underestimated. If he hadn't used a killer move, it was hard to say if he could have killed this black wind bear with its thick skin and amazing spiritual sense. The mission is finally completed. The rest of the time is to cultivate properly. Lu Kuan looked at the tree hole and was quite satisfied. Lu Kuan chose to come to the Spirit Demon Valley. In addition to doing missions and obtaining demon beast materials, he also wanted to use the demon chi here to break through and cultivate the Yuan fire body tempering art to the perfection stage of the 13th level of chi refining. Chapter 131. In the depths of the spiritual demon valley, Lu Kuan had been cultivating here for several months. He didn't know if it was because of the remnant aura of the black wind bear in the tree hole, but no demon beast came to disturb him. The demon chi in this area was thick. If Xiao Jin came here to cultivate, he would definitely be able to break through to the level of a top-tier class 1 demon beast in a short time. However, Lu Kuan felt that Xiao Jin must not come to the spiritual demon valley again. First of all, Xiao Jin's bloodline seemed to be the enemy of all the demon beasts here. When Xiao Jin became a demon beast, it was in this Spirit Illumination mountain range. At that time, countless demon beasts sensed its aura and chased after it, forcing it to destroy its own cultivation. The demon beasts in the spiritual demon valley had more or less absorbed some of the yellow demon chi in the spiritual demon valley. Later, Xiao Jin learned Lu Kuan's body refining art and almost completely restrained all of his aura. However, after coming to the spiritual demon valley, he would still be discovered, just like the fierce badger that day. That day, the fierce badger sensed Xiao Jin's bloodline and launched an attack. Next was Xiao Jin himself. After absorbing the demonic chi here, he unconsciously developed a strong sense of resentment, as if the demonic chi in the valley was his enemy. This meant that Xiao Jin's bloodline and the owner of the yellow demon chi in the spiritual demon valley were irreconcilable enemies. This hatred dissolved in the bloodline. When demon beasts absorbed the demon chi here, they would have hatred for Xiao Jin. And when Xiao Jin absorbed the demon chi, he also activated the resentment in his bloodline. After thinking about it again and again, Lu Kuan left Xiao Jin in the sect. Xiao Jin's strength increased greatly with the help of Gu Tianjian. He also had the clever little guy, Zhao Qintian, to take care of him, so he wouldn't be in any danger. Feeling the strength of his body, Lu Kuan frowned. After such a long time of cultivation, his muscles still didn't have a higher breakthrough. This absolute realm is so difficult to break through. Could it be that he had to convert his demonic chi? But if that's the case, wouldn't I be like a demonic beast, cultivating demonic spiritual energy? Lu Kuan muttered. After using demonic aura to temper his body for such a long time, he still hadn't broken through. Lu Kuan could only look for other ways to break through. Logically speaking, a cultivator at the peak of the chi refining stage should be at the same level as a top-tier class 1 demonic beast. The reason why top-tier demonic beasts were so powerful was because they had tough bodies and sharp claws, powerful attack and defense, and unparalleled speed. During the time when he was testing the spiritual controlling materials, Gu Tianjian had told Lu Kuan a lot of knowledge about demon beasts. Most of the rank 1 demonic beast's peak stage is the necessary stage to advance to rank 2. During this stage, the demonic beast body will be repeatedly tempered by the demonic beast's spiritual energy. Only when the body is strong will it be able to advance to rank 2. His body refining art is somewhat similar to the demonic beast cultivation. Only when the body is strong enough will it enter the next realm. However, the biggest difference between the body refining art and the demonic beast cultivation is the problem of time. The lifespan of a demonic beast is many times longer than that of a human. They can rely on the accumulation of time and slowly break through. However, a human's time is limited. If they don't build their foundation in the limited time, it will be impossible for their body to deteriorate later. Moreover, the demonic beast claw's defense starts from the flesh and is gradually tempered until it is comparable to a top-grade magic weapon. Lu Kuan's previous idea of body refining and tool refining is very similar to the growth of a rank 1 demonic beast. Lu Kuan naturally thought of demonic spiritual energy. Judging from the effect of demonic aura tempering, the tempering effect of demonic spiritual energy must be much better than magic power. Previously, Lu Kuan had discussed with Xiao Jin and felt that it is possible for him to transform demonic aura into demonic spiritual energy. This is because he is the same as Xiao Jin and as part of the demonic beast bloodline. Moreover, the method of transforming magic power in his elemental fire body refining art is comprehended from the giant golden ape's 5-colored halo. The giant golden ape is also a demonic beast. If the 5-color halo on its giant arm can help it transform magic power, then it should be possible to transform demonic spiritual energy. Transforming demonic spiritual energy also requires spiritual roots. Although Lu Kuan has the spirit-controlling arm guard, he does not dare to rely on the spirit-controlling celestial artifact to transform the demonic aura here. This is because the spirit-controlling celestial artifact needs to be triggered by divine sense. This will inevitably be affected by the bloodthirsty intent in the demonic aura. Today is the day Lu Kuan's spiritual roots appear. Lu Kuan felt the abundant demonic aura in his body, as well as the bloodthirsty intent in the demonic aura. He activated the concealment spiritual roots ability and hid his divine sense well. Then, he closed his eyes and began the transformation. The turbulent demonic aura in his body gathered in Lu Kuan's muscles and rolled. The muscles all over his body suddenly expanded and contracted. Gradually, the aura of a demonic beast gushed out from them. A yellow light appeared on the surface of Lu Kuan's body, covering his angular muscles. His expression was also quite painful. Fortunately, after so many years of body refining art cultivation, his nerves have been tempered to be incomparably tough. After half a day, the yellow light gradually dissipated, revealing Lu Kuan's determined face. He frowned, felt the situation of his body, and whispered, "The transformation is indeed successful. But other than my arms, the spiritual energy in the other parts of my body is slowly dissipating. There's no way to retain it. Looks like I have to hurry up and use the spiritual energy to refine my body." In the next few hours, Lu Kuan repeatedly used the spiritual energy to refine his muscles. Spiritual energy is the same as spiritual energy. There's no way to refine the bones and deeper parts of the body. After half a day, Lu Kuan opened his eyes. The spiritual energy in his body, other than his arms, had disappeared. A human's body can't retain spiritual energy for too long. This is also because Lu Kuan has the bloodline of the great ape. However, his arms are still filled with spiritual energy, which hasn't dissipated. Lu Kuan's heart moved. He felt that there's something different about his arms. He continued to absorb the demonic aura, allowing the spiritual energy in his arms to reach a saturated state. Then, he carefully removed the spiritual control arm guards. Then, he closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. Gradually, many bloody scars appeared on his arms. A terrifying aura was emitted from them. Lu Kuan's brows twitched. He adjusted his arms again, reducing the number of bloody scars on his arms by more than half. Next, Lu Kuan stirred the spiritual energy in his arms. He chanted, causing it to circulate. His arms seemed to have been stimulated by something. They expanded to 5 feet long, extending all the way to his knees. The entire dimension also doubled, becoming as thick as a thigh. Lu Kuan actually activated the giant arm's divine ability. The last time this divine ability appeared was when he was being used as a blood sacrifice by Old Devil Moro. Lu Kuan let out a roar. His eyes turned red. His arms were circulating with a dark yellow light, and he struck towards the ground. Bang! A loud sound rang out. The huge tree shook violently. Even the other peak-tier demonic beasts in the distance raised their heads and looked in this direction with fear. They thought that this old bear's strength had become stronger and was showing off to them. Lu Kuan's face was deathly pale. His arms had already returned to normal. In front of him, there was a deep pit with a diameter of 3 feet. He looked at the scene in front of him with his mouth slightly agape. He didn't dare to believe it. If a Foundation Establishment cultivator was here, they would also be frightened by this attack. This was equivalent to an ordinary attack from an early Foundation Establishment cultivator using a top-grade level 1 magic tool. Lu Kuan had this kind of power with his bare hands. After being in a daze for a while, Lu Kuan immediately faced the sky and laughed. Early on, after he created the elemental fire body tempering art, Lu Kuan had always wanted to reproduce the power of the giant arm's divine ability. On the day he killed Old Devil Moro, the giant arm's divine ability was activated. The biggest reason was that there was enough blood essence in the blood sacrifice pool. Based on this, Lu Kuan had thought a move. Through his control of blood and internal organs, he could temporarily gather most of the blood essence in his body on his arms. At this time, referring to the 5-colored halo, he could circulate the magic power in his arms and barely activate the giant arm's divine ability. This move was only his conjecture. He had never really put it into practice because this move was completely a self-destructive move. The blood in his body would be reduced by more than half. Just thinking about it was incomparably terrifying. There were 2 times when Lu Kuan wanted to use it. The first time was when he had just entered the Bright Spirit Demon Valley and was ambushed by Du Yuan Shan and the others. Fortunately, he was able to turn the situation around. The second time was when Ye Wufeng and the others discovered his true cultivation. At that time, he had almost stimulated all the blood in his body into his arms. After using it, he would inevitably die. Ye Wufeng was aware of this move and agreed to swear. Otherwise, if a cultivator with hidden spiritual roots died like this, Ye Wufeng would definitely regret it endlessly. Just after transforming the demon's spiritual energy, Lu Kuan felt that the giant arm's divine ability was easier to use. Thus, he controlled a small part of his blood essence and released all the demon's spiritual energy in his arms, stimulating this terrifying power. I used a small part of my blood essence. As long as I replenish it for a few days, it will recover. It is much safer than my previous method. However, I can only use demon spiritual energy. Lu Kuan thought of this flaw and sighed again. He continued to whisper, "At least it means that it can be improved. In the future, it will not take my life so easily. In that case, I will take in all the top-level demon beasts here. Every top-level demon beast is worth at least 1 or 2,000 spirit stones. After muttering to himself, Lu Kuan took out a large piece of demon beast meat to replenish his blood essence. In the next month or so, in the depths of the Spirit Demon Valley, a top-tier monster beast would die every 5 days until the fourth top-tier monster beast died. The Black Rock Island in the middle of the Spirit Demon Valley seemed to have felt something and emitted a dazzling yellow light. However, this time, the light did not spread to the sky. Instead, it floated to the depths of the area. Not long after, it covered all the peaks in the depths of the area. There were many top-level demon beasts in each peak. After feeling this yellow light, their eyes turned red and rushed to a certain place. Lu Kuan stood at the edge of a forest. The slightly thicker trees around him were all smashed. At this time, he was panting like an ox. His face was pale, and there was a deep scratch on his chest that showed the bone. There was also a Black Panther corpse at his feet. The entire head of the Black Panther seemed to have been smashed by some kind of huge force. Chapter 132. After about the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Lu Kuan touched his chest and muttered with lingering fear, "If I hadn't taken the risk and captured the Black Panther's figure, I wouldn't have been able to kill it." That Black Panther was the top-ranked demon beast that almost killed him when he was practicing here last time. When he fought with the Black Panther just now, it was like a flash of lightning. The Black Panther was extremely fast, and its explosive speed was even more astonishing. Lu Kuan's essence explosion steps could barely keep up with it. If the battle dragged on, Lu Kuan would definitely be at a disadvantage. His powerful attacks simply couldn't hit his opponent. In order to end the battle quickly, Lu Kuan made up his mind and purposely revealed an opening in front of his chest. When the Black Panther attacked his chest, he used the giant arm's divine art and slammed it towards its head, killing it in one move. This move could be said to be the same as the battle between the Golden Ape and the Thunderbird that Lu Kuan saw in his dream. He deliberately exposed a gap in order to launch an earth-shattering attack. Lu Kuan had the recovery ability of the Origin Tree Body Refinement Art, so he wasn't afraid of this kind of small injury. After all, this Black Panther wasn't a strength-type demon beast like the Black Wind Bear. It couldn't resist Lu Kuan's giant arms. After recovering from his wounds, Lu Kuan suddenly raised his head and looked at the mountain peak not far away. He murmured, "Huh? Why are there so many demon beasts rushing towards me?" He had learned the first half of the spirit sensing technique of the weapon refining peak, so his body was more sensitive to the surrounding environment. He just sensed a dozen demon beasts rushing towards him. Those that can be in this area are all top-ranked demon beasts. But how do they find me? No, I have to escape from here first. Lu Kuan's face changed when he thought of the area he was in. Putting away the formation, he held the unparalleled staff in his hand and flew towards the central area of the Spirit Demon Valley. In his perception, this was the only direction that didn't have the sound of demon beasts running. When he was fighting with the Black Panther earlier, he had only used up all the demon's spiritual energy in his arm. He still had a lot of FA left. Under the full power of the Imperial flying technique, his speed was extremely fast. The speed of the top-tier demonic beasts in all directions was no less than that of Lu Kuan, but because they were all in their own mountain forests, it was inevitable that they would have to take some detours in order to rush over, so there was no way for him to catch up for a while. Just as Lu Kuan was about to rush out of the deep region, a small green figure shot towards him from the front. Its speed was even faster than the explosive essence steps. Fortunately, just in case, Lu Kuan's consciousness was constantly focused on his eyes. He saw the green figure from afar. As soon as it moved, it was discovered by Lu Kuan. Flames flickered under his feet, refracting to the side. Who would have thought that the cyan silhouette would be able to change directions in midair and even predict the enemy's movements, quickly shooting towards the direction he had dodged? Lu Kuan had no choice but to cross his two staves to receive this attack. Clang! Like a drill hitting a rock, it made an ear-piercing sound. Lu Kuan borrowed the force and floated away. This small cyan silhouette, because of the force of the two staves, was also sent flying and fell to the ground. He didn't know if it was because the burst of speed just now was too fierce, but for a while, it couldn't get up and continue to attack. Lu Kuan carefully scanned with his consciousness. It turned out to be a small green snake. Looking at its aura, it was a top-tier demonic beast. This green snake's head was pitch black, with a sharp cone shape and a metallic luster flashing on it. Who would have thought that this little snake's strongest weapon was actually on its nose and mouth? It was really strange. Moreover, it moved without any sound, so there was no way to sense it. Lu Kuan continued to run. Just now, the small green snake was separated by the matchless staves, so it didn't cause much damage to him. However, there was a small gap on the red matchless staves. After Lu Kuan saw it, he was also shocked. The matchless staves was a high-grade magic tool set, comparable to a top-grade magic tool. It was not inferior to a forging hammer. Moreover, there's a reinforcement array inside, so it could be said that it was incomparably hard. This little snake relied on its flesh and blood to break it, so it could be seen how strong its explosive power was. Lu Kuan didn't think that his external muscles could compare to the material of the matchless staves. If he had been hit by it just now, it would have drilled into his body, and the consequences would have been unimaginable. Fortunately, this snake couldn't move quickly, and was quickly shaken off by Lu Kuan. While running, Lu Kuan thought to himself, "This time when I go back, I must refine the matchless staves into a top-grade magic tool set. This way, it can both attack and defend. If I can't block this kind of attack next time, the consequences will be unimaginable. In the future, most of my missions will be to fight top-grade monsters. High-grade magic tools won't be enough." After thinking about it, Lu Kuan put away the matchless staves and took out the rope-like top-grade magic tool. Although this magic tool's power was mainly to trap enemies, it was long enough to be used as a long whip. Facing so many top-grade monsters, Lu Kuan would be courting death if he continued to fight them in close combat. This long whip magic tool not only could be used to attack from a distance, but it could also be used to pull rocks and trees in the distance, which would help him escape. With Lu Kuan's control over his body's strength, he could accurately display the power of various weapons. With this long whip, he could display the power it should have, just like the long whip masters of the secular martial arts world. As he ran, Lu Kuan wrapped this magic tool around his waist. Just now, when he fought with the little green snake, his speed was delayed and the nearby top-grade monsters were getting closer. Although Lu Kuan's current strength was strong, he could only barely kill a top-grade monster one-on-one. Soon, he left the deep area and ran towards the central area. Lu Kuan did not know that when he entered the central area, a large amount of yellow light drifted out of the Black Rock Island, but this time it spread to the entire central area. Not long after, the monsters in the central area began to become restless, but it was limited to high-grade monsters and above. These high-grade monsters all rushed in the direction of Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan felt a headache when he felt the top-grade monsters chasing after him. His magic power was limited, and he could not afford to waste time with these top-grade monsters. Moreover, there was still some time before he left the valley, so there was no place for him to escape. Suddenly, he seemed to feel something again, and his face suddenly darkened. He panicked and exclaimed, "Why are there hundreds of monsters in the central area rushing over? I heard that this would only happen when there are many cultivators in the Demon Valley. Why are they targeting me alone? There are other cultivators in the valley." Recalling the previous scene, Lu Kuan suddenly understood. Could it be that I killed too many top-grade monsters at once? Including the Black Panther just now, I only killed 6 of them. No, I have to find a way to hide in a safe place, or else my magic power will be exhausted and I will die. Then he closed his eyes and carefully felt the ground, and then injected his divine sense into his eyes. This was a plain, so he could see very far. After a few glances, his face was somewhat uncertain. "Isn't that the most dangerous place that Shen Mingyao said? That's the only place where all the demonic beasts would avoid. I can't care so much. I, Lu Kuan, still have so many things to do. I absolutely cannot die here." Identifying a direction, Lu Kuan no longer saved his magic power, and accelerated the body defense flying technique. The direction he ran in was the Black Rock Island in the center of the Demon Valley. At this time, there were other cultivators in the Demon Valley, all in groups of 2 or 3, wandering between the outer area and the central area. A group of cultivators was fighting with 3 upper-grade monsters. Suddenly, these upper-grade monsters seemed to have gone crazy and ran into the depths of the Demon Valley, leaving a few people looking at each other. Several cultivators saw from afar that groups of upper-grade monsters were rushing into the depths of the Demon Valley. This was a scene of too many cultivators entering. The cultivators who saw this scene were terrified and ran to the outer area, fearing that they would be involved. Between the central river and the deep area, looking down from a high altitude, one would find that except for the Black Rock Island in the middle of the river, the other places were full of smoke and dust, and all kinds of monsters were everywhere. The demonic beasts in the central region had already rushed out from the rivers on both sides of the Black Island. They were about to converge together and rush towards a tiny figure in front of them. Behind this tiny figure were more than 10 powerful demonic beasts with imposing auras. Lu Kuan could already see the Black Rock Island in front of him. He saw that the gap in front of him was slowly disappearing, not giving him any space to rush over. He gritted his teeth and frantically used the exploding essence steps to rush towards the group of demonic beasts. As Lu Kuan approached, he realized that the eyes of these demonic beasts were a little red. It was as if their minds were not under their control as they stared at his figure. Lu Kuan's whole body emitted white flames, and these flames were compressed to his legs. When he was about to collide with this group of upper-grade monsters, his feet erupted with the essence explosion steps, and he flew diagonally upward, passing by the monsters in front of him. He carried the white flames, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in the sky above the monsters. The flames on his legs suddenly released a bright light, accompanied by the sound of an explosion. The figure in the sky above the monsters changed the direction of his flight, and under the yellow demonic fog, he shot forward in the explosion, as if he could fly at a low altitude. At the same time, he took out a long whip artifact and used it to whip a few upper-grade monsters on the ground, stopping them from falling. His legs once again erupted with a bright light, and he continued to rush forward. After repeating this several times, Lu Kuan passed by this group of monsters that had not yet reacted and quickly landed beside the river. His divine sense sensed that the monsters behind him were in chaos. The monsters accelerated their charge, and there was no way to stop the momentum of their charge. The top-grade monsters and the group of upper-grade monsters quickly collided. However, these monsters did not fight, and instead, they changed their direction and continued to rush toward him. Seeing this, Lu Kuan did not hesitate to rush toward the Black Rock Island. He did not dare to enter this small lake with a strange whirlpool, so he used the same move, skimming at a low altitude, and landed on the cold black rock. Lu Kuan turned his head and saw that the monsters were not coming. He breathed a sigh of relief, but the rock under his feet suddenly flashed with a dazzling yellow light, and Lu Kuan's figure was swallowed by it. Chapter 133. When the yellow light flashed under Lu Kuan's feet, a thought flashed in his mind. He immediately used the concealing spiritual root divine ability to hide his spiritual consciousness and spirit soul. Then, he felt an extremely violent consciousness sweeping through his sea of consciousness. If he had activated the concealment spiritual root divine ability a little later, his spirit would have been shattered under the impact of this violent consciousness, and he would have become a living corpse. Before Lu Kuan could relax, this consciousness, along with a huge amount of demonic aura, rushed into his body. Lu Kuan staggered 2 steps, only to feel that there was nothing under his feet, and he fell. In the process of falling, his body was hit by many rocks, and he fell heavily onto a rock. Lu Kuan did not care about the environment he was in. Such a huge amount of demonic aura entering his body made him extremely nervous. After the demonic aura entered his body, It immediately washed away the fourth level of qi refining in his dantian. Then it discovered the spiritual power in his muscles. The yellow demonic aura seemed to be all-pervasive, directly penetrating Lu Kuan's muscle fibers, washing away the remaining spiritual power in his muscles. This bit of spiritual power was not the opponent's match at all. Lu Kuan subconsciously activated the elemental fire body tempering art, wanting to use the demonic aura to temper his body and relieve the pain. However, the yellow demonic aura had its own consciousness, and there was no way to mobilize it at all. Suddenly, the violent consciousness in the demonic aura seemed to have discovered something. All the demonic aura quickly drilled out of Lu Kuan's body, forming a yellow eggshell, and wrapped Lu Kuan's body inside. Then, Lu Kuan felt a strange suction force appear around him. This suction force did not tear his body apart, but targeted his spirit. After Lu Kuan sensed it, he activated the concealment spiritual root divine ability with all his might. This suction force appeared in his sea of consciousness, stayed for a while, and then left. However, in that short moment, Lu Kuan felt that his strength was not as strong as he wished, and his spirit could float out at any time. Then, the suction force spread throughout his body, sucking out all the remaining demon spiritual energy in his arms. Then, as if it had completed its mission, the yellow demon aura left Lu Kuan and flew off to an unknown location. Lu Kuan opened his eyes, which were filled with terror. The feeling of his soul being sucked out at any moment made him extremely panicked. If it were an ordinary cultivator, not to mention the suction force, as long as the violent demonic aura rushed into their body, they would immediately explode and die. Even though Lu Kuan's body was comparable to a demonic beast's, he still felt a dull pain at this time. He subconsciously rubbed his muscles, only to discover that his skin had been scraped open at some point. Looking around, Lu Kuan realized that he had fallen into a stone crevice. This crevice was only as wide as a person and was about 30 to 40 feet away from the light above. Lu Kuan looked carefully and saw some blood on the walls of the crevice. It should be his blood. The rocks here are so hard and sharp. One must know that my body cannot be damaged by ordinary swords and sabers. Could it be that these rocks are a kind of top-notch refining material? Lu Kuan muttered as he touched his upper body. There's still a path here. He looked ahead and discovered that the crevice was not completely sealed. There was a hole that he could just pass through. Looking at the hole above his head, Lu Kuan whispered, "This gully should be in the middle of this black rock island. It seems to be a naturally formed crevice." After Lu Kuan finished muttering, he continued to walk forward. Having just experienced danger, he was not too afraid. However, his soul and divine sense were still hidden. Lu Kuan did not notice that as he walked forward, the blood on the walls seemed to be swallowed up and disappeared without a trace. As he moved forward, he discovered that the passage ahead was spiraling downward. The passage was getting wider and wider. At the beginning, it was only wide enough for one person to walk through. Gotcha! A crisp sound came from under his feet. Lu Kuan looked down. His eyes had the ability to see in the dark, so he could easily see that the thing under his feet was a human skull. Looking at the skull that turned into dust when he stepped on it, as well as the scattered white bones around, Lu Kuan was somewhat puzzled. Could it be an immortal cultivator who died here in the past? He bent down and wiped away some of the dust. He saw an unrecognizable robe that was rotten beyond recognition. There were even faint traces of a raise on it. It really is an immortal cultivator. Even an immortal artifact level robe like this is already rotten and damaged. God knows how many years it has been since it died. Lu Kuan thought of something, and his face lit up with joy. He began to dig around the skeleton. The dust here was brought in from the outside. The real black rock was incomparably solid. Lu Kuan quickly found a black storage bag. He smiled and placed it on his waist. Although he was very curious about how many things there were in this storage bag, he did not dare to use his divine sense to explore. If by any chance he attracted a berserk consciousness, he would end up like this skeleton. As Lu Kuan went deeper, he saw several corpses of immortal cultivators one after another. He found 4 more storage bags and put them away. In addition to the corpses of immortal cultivators, there were also corpses of all kinds of demonic beasts. At this time, he could no longer see any light. There were more and more demonic beast corpses, but they had all turned into bones. Without the nourishment of demonic spiritual energy, they turned into powder with a touch. They had no value. Lu Kuan felt that he had walked for half an hour. The road behind him was even stepping on the bones of demonic beasts. Finally, he heard the sound of water. After turning a corner, there was light in front of him. This was a rather large cave. The light came from the stone in the middle of the cave. This stone was blooming with a yellow light. It was about 2 people tall, and 4 people could wrap their arms around it. It was oval in shape. The yellow light on top of the stone was flashing and beating rhythmically like a heart. Around this yellow stone, there were densely packed corpses of various demonic beasts. Some of the corpses did not even decompose. It looked very strange. Further out was the water flowing around the stone. The sound of water was coming from here. At this time, the yellow stone seemed to have sensed something. A yellow demonic spiritual energy was emitted from it and floated towards the water. Lu Kuan carefully looked at the water from the corner of his eyes. It turned out to be a tiger-like demonic beast. Looking at its aura, it was much stronger than the demonic beast that was chasing Lu Kuan. However, its eyes were dim. Could it be a rank 2 demonic beast? Didn't they say that there were no rank 2 demonic beasts in the valley? Ignoring the confusion in Lu Kuan's heart, the demonic spiritual energy emitted from the stone quickly wrapped around the tiger. In an instant, the demonic spiritual energy of this suspected rank 2 demonic beast was completely extracted. At the same time, a mini tiger cub was brought out from the skull and disappeared into the stone. Then, the demonic beast's corpse fell beside the stone. Seeing this scene, Lu Kuan suddenly realized something. No wonder there aren't any rank 2 demonic beasts here. So all the rank 2 demonic beasts were here. In the end, their spiritual energy and divine soul were sucked dry by this stone. Looking at the appearance of this rank 2 demonic beast, it should have been completely controlled before being brought here by the water flow. This water flow should be connected to the small lake above. Lu Kuan recalled the scene of him being chased by so many demonic beasts and had some guesses in his heart. So all the demonic beasts that absorb the demonic spiritual energy here can be controlled by this stone. When these demonic beasts grow into rank 2 demonic beasts, they will be sucked dry of their spiritual energy. It even absorbs their divine soul. Previously, I killed so many top-tier demonic beasts. It's equivalent to snatching food from a tiger's mouth. No wonder it wanted to deal with me. But this stone's actions are instinctive, mechanical, and rigid. After I entered here, it thought that I was a cultivator. First, it attacked my divine soul, then cleansed my spiritual energy. Later, it discovered that I have demonic spiritual energy in my body and treated me as a demonic beast. Then, it tried to absorb my soul and demonic spiritual energy. After doing all this, it seemed to have completed its task and no longer cared about me. No matter what, it's dangerous here. Let's leave this place first. After Lu Kuan understood, he slowly retreated without hesitation. With so many demonic beast corpses around, it was clear that this stone's demands were endless. Just now, when he was far away, he could only barely preserve his divine soul. Now that he was so close to this stone, it was definitely a dead end. The corpse of the rank 2 demonic beast was very attractive to him, but compared to his life, it was nothing. Lu Kuan was already burning incense to be able to escape with his life from the previous group of demonic beasts. He also knew that the Demon Valley was controlled by this stone. Next time, he would not be able to kill these top-tier demonic beasts so recklessly. This time, he was lucky to escape in time and hide in this black island. Next time, he might not be so lucky. The harvest was also not small. Not to mention a few storage pouches, He also knew that the violent consciousness in this yellow demonic fog did not affect his hidden spiritual roots. So it didn't matter if he came into contact with the yellow demonic fog outside. Unfortunately, flying on a flying tool required the use of divine sense. Otherwise, Lu Kuan would be like a fish in water in this demon valley. Lu Kuan carefully returned to the original path. Sure enough, he did not disturb the stone. When he reached the highest point, he easily climbed out with his powerful climbing skills. Secretly observing the situation around him, Lu Kuan found that the previous group of demonic beasts had already dispersed. Lu Kuan let out a sigh of relief. However, looking at the surrounding whirlpools, he was somewhat hesitant. He already knew that these whirlpools would suck people into the depths of the black rock. Then, the rock would madly suck them in. However, Lu Kuan currently did not have any magic power or demonic spiritual power. He could only swim with his bare hands. That rank 2 demonic beast has already been controlled and was sucked in without any resistance. Then I could try to swim away. Lu Kuan ran up, jumped, and dove into the water. As soon as he entered the water, he felt a turbulent undercurrent, sucking his body down. If this was on Earth, he would definitely not be able to resist this suction. However, with his current strength and his previous triathlon skills, he was barely able to swim out, but his speed was very slow. While swimming, he could feel the existence of the violent consciousness in the lake. After some effort, he finally swam to the other side safely. Chapter 134. After Lu Kuan left the Black Island, he had Zhang Tu's map and easily avoided a few groups of demon beasts. He found a forest with no demon beasts for the time being and hid in a tree hole. He didn't have a trace of magic power and couldn't open his storage bag. Thus, he used the demon attraction technique and gradually filled his arms with demon spirit energy. Only then did Lu Kuan let out a sigh of relief. In the recent battles, Lu Kuan has been filling his arms with demon spiritual energy, while the other muscles stored magic energy. This way, he has the giant arms divine ability as his trump card. Demon spirit energy and magic power were controlled by muscles, so there wouldn't be any conflict between the two. As long as he didn't use the demon spirit energy in his arms to temper his muscles, the demon spirit energy wouldn't disappear. Lu Kuan was able to kill a top-tier demon beast every 5 days by relying on the might of the giant arms god art. Moreover, with a 5-day interval, he could replenish his chi and blood in a timely manner. Thinking that he could use the giant arms god art more smoothly, Lu Kuan was quite satisfied and used the demon spirit energy in his arms to open his storage bag. First, he took out an isolation formation and set it up around the tree hole. He planned to use the fire attribute spirit stone to quickly replenish the magic power in his muscles while his spirit root was still there. When he began to convert his magic power, Lu Kuan discovered that his muscles and fibers had been damaged by the yellow, demonic aura. He took out a wood attribute spirit stone and began to circulate the primordial tree body tempering art to heal his injuries. After so many years of cultivating the body tempering art, Lu Kuan had already separated a part of the primordial tree body tempering art. As long as he had wood attribute spirit energy, he could heal his injuries in time. Moreover, after learning the spirit sensing art, he could temporarily transfer the fire attribute magic power in his muscles to another area. This way, the wood attribute spirit energy wouldn't conflict with his fire attribute magic power. When his muscles were healed, he immediately felt that the strength of his body had improved. Overjoyed, he quickly cultivated the primordial fire body tempering art. When his muscles were filled with mana, he indeed broke through to the 13th level of chi refining, reaching the realm of great perfection. Thinking back, Lu Kuan felt that it was the yellow, demonic aura on the Black Island that helped. This yellow demonic chi was completely different from ordinary demonic chi. It had an additional consciousness and was extremely dense. The task of a yellow demonic chi was to destroy the magic power in Lu Kuan's muscles. However, it did not know that Lu Kuan's muscles were the carrier of his mana. This yellow, demonic aura scouring through his muscle fibers actually allowed Lu Kuan to advance further. I've completed my mission in the Demon Valley. All that's left is to refine the spirit-controlling celestial treasure, Lu Kuan said to himself in delight. I killed 4 top-ranked demonic beasts and 20 top-ranked demonic beasts. Adding the materials in my storage pouch that I haven't sold yet, I believe I can exchange them for 6,000 to 7,000 spirit stones. The materials for the spirit-controlling inner armor should be enough. That's right, in those storage bags. Lu Kuan took out the 4 storage bags and excitedly probed them with his divine sense. How is this possible? Why are there so few spirit stones? There aren't even any celestial treasures. Lu Kuan was a little depressed. It turned out that these storage bags only had a few hundred spirit stones in total. It was extremely miserable. Huh, what is this? Lu Kuan opened the storage bags and found that in addition to the spirit stones, there were a few black stones in each storage bag. Lu Kuan held a stone in his hand and frowned. It looks quite familiar. That's right. Isn't this the rock on the Black Island? It can easily cut through my defense. I'll put it away first. I'll go back and look for information. If it doesn't work, I'll ask Master Gu to study it. I believe Master Gu will be interested. I've been away from the sect for almost a year. It's time to go back. After muttering to himself, Lu Kuan got up and walked towards the entrance of the Demon Valley. Almost a month later, the cultivators who were in hiding poked their heads out one after another and carefully walked towards the exit. In the outer area, there were 2 cultivators, both in the 11th layer of Qi refining. One of them was a middle-aged man who looked quite mature and was greeting the other group. Are you the Li brothers of Mount Luhua in front? The other group had 3 cultivators, all in the 10th layer of Qi refining. The 3 men looked somewhat similar. One of the older men asked doubtfully, Are you Brother Fong? The middle-aged man, surnamed Fong's face lit up. He replied, That's me. After exchanging names, both sides breathed a sigh of relief. After all, meeting familiar cultivators in the Demon Valley could lower their guard. The eldest of the Li brothers said, The last time I met Brother Fong was at the Southern Peak Mountain. I didn't expect to meet you here 10 years later. The middle-aged man, surnamed Fong, also felt a bit emotional. He said, That's right. When we entered the Demon Valley, I wasn't sure how many of you there were. Why don't we go to the exit together and talk as we walk? That's exactly what I was thinking. The middle-aged man, surnamed Fong, casually chatted for a while before asking about the situation of the demonic beasts. Brotherly, you must have seen the demonic beast riot before. Your Li family is experienced and knowledgeable. Do you know the reason for the demonic beast riot? Li Jieji frowned and said, I'm also quite puzzled. If there were too many people, we would have been chased by the demonic beasts as soon as we entered the valley. He had a puzzled look on his face as he continued. However, there is a similar situation that is recorded in my family. The middle-aged man, surnamed Fong, hurriedly asked, What situation? Li Jieji said, It is said that when a powerful group of cultivators hunted down a large number of top-tier demonic beasts, the remaining top-tier demonic beasts in the depths of the Demon Valley would attack together and kill these groups. The middle-aged man, surnamed Fong, shook his head. But what we saw was a group of upper-tier demonic beasts in the central region. Moreover, none of the cultivators who came in with us could deal with the top-tier demonic beasts. In any case, the demonic beast riot is over. Even if there was such a group, they must have died. I hope so. As they talked, they came to the entrance of the valley. Suddenly, the middle-aged man, surnamed Fong, stopped and looked in front of him with a stunned expression. Li Jieji found it strange and looked in the same direction. He saw a burly man standing at the entrance of the passage with his arms crossed and his eyes closed. Looking at his cultivation, he was at the peak of the 13th level of Qi refining. Li Jieji asked in a low voice, Brother Fong, why does this fellow Taoist look so unfamiliar? Do you know who he is? With such a high cultivation, he can't be a nobody. The middle-aged man, surnamed Fong, smiled bitterly and shook his head. He said, I was the last one to enter the valley, so I have some impression of every cultivator, but I have never seen this one before. The others were shocked. Li Jiejia said, "Could it be that this person entered the Demon Valley half a year ago? He actually stayed in the Demon Valley for so long." The middle-aged man, surnamed Fong, swallowed and said with some difficulty, "Li Jiejia, do you think the demonic beast riot was caused by this cultivator?" Li Jiejia shook his head and said, "No. Although the peak of qi refining is strong, it is impossible for him to kill the top-level demonic beasts in the Demon Valley. He can't fly, so he can't be a match for them one-on-one." Just as these people were bewildered, in the very center of the Spirit Demon Valley, a yellow halo was spreading out from the Black Rock Island, but this yellow halo had just spread to the surface of the island when it stopped. The yellow halo lingered in the crack of the rock where Lu Kuan fell. After a while, a lot of blood seeped out from the black rock and was wrapped by the yellow halo. Then, a blood thread separated from the black rock. The yellow halo no longer spread out, but wrapped the blood thread and returned to the depths of the Black Island. Finally, it disappeared into the oval-shaped rock. Lu Kuan stood at the entrance of the valley, feeling uneasy. Looking at the time, it should be time to open the valley. Why is there still no movement? Does it have something to do with me? As for the other cultivators, they were even more flustered. The previous beast tide had already made them very uneasy. Now that the exit had not opened, they were even more frightened. After a while, led by the middle-aged man surnamed Fong, a total of 5 cultivators walked towards Lu Kuan. The man surnamed Fong hesitantly cupped his hands towards Lu Kuan and asked, "Fellow cultivator, I am Fong Tsongyu. How should I address you? When I entered the valley 3 months ago, I don't think I saw you." Lu Kuan looked at them indifferently and said, "Lu entered the valley half a year ago. What? Are you interested in what Lu did?" After he finished speaking, Lu Kuan's mana surged. The spiritual pressure of the peak of qi refining and the baleful aura of Lu Kuan from killing the top-level demonic beasts burst out together. This made the Li family and the man, surnamed Fong, break out in cold sweat. It was as if this cultivator in front of them could kill them with a wave of his hand. The man surnamed Fong replied, No, we definitely didn't mean that." After he finished speaking, the Li family and the middle-aged man, surnamed Fong, led the other cultivators back, not daring to ask anything else. When they were quite a distance away from Lu Kuan, the third brother of the Li family asked, "Big brother, fellow Fong, why didn't we continue to interrogate him? We have 5 late-stage cultivators. We don't have to be afraid of him." The eldest brother of the Li family and the man, surnamed Fong, looked at each other and wiped the cold sweat off their foreheads at the same time. The eldest brother of the Li family said, "Third brother, you're standing at the back so you can't feel how terrifying this male cultivator is. We are not his match at all." The man surnamed Fong also said, "That's right. Although my cultivation is not high, I am still at the late stage of qi refining. My intuition is still very accurate. When I stood in front of him, I even felt that I could be killed at any time." The other 3 shook their heads. They all felt that the man surnamed Fong was exaggerating. Lu Kuan ignored them. He felt as if he had forgotten something. When he turned back to look at the center of the Demon Valley, his expression changed greatly. Then, under the shocked gazes of all the cultivators, Lu Kuan rushed towards the exit of a yellow fog, completely ignoring the violent consciousness in the fog. Not long after, the remaining cultivators felt the ground begin to shake. When they looked back, they saw a dense and endless horde of demonic beasts rushing towards them. A beast tide, and a beast tide of such scale. Chapter 135. The cultivators who had followed Lu Kuan into the passage had all disappeared. Only some black ashes on the ground proved their existence. Lu Kuan was running at full speed in the passage. His face was full of tension. From time to time, flames would erupt under his feet as he constantly changed the direction he was running in. Relying on a magical ability of the hidden spiritual root, he was not hit by the violent consciousness. However, several black lightning bolts in the passage were chasing after him at an extremely fast speed. Lu Kuan saw a late-stage qi refining cultivator being turned into ashes by the black lightning with his own eyes. It was obvious that this power was not something he could withstand. The black lightning seemed to be able to capture all moving objects and even predict his direction. Fortunately, there were only 2 or 3 black lightning bolts. Otherwise, no matter how fast Lu Kuan was, he would not be able to dodge them. In the end, Lu Kuan used all his strength to escape from this strange demon valley. The moment before he exited the passage, he quickly changed his face into a long-faced man. Looking at the stunned cultivators outside the demon valley, the long-faced man laughed. Using a strange footwork, he quickly left this place and disappeared into the dense forest. Outside the spirit demon valley, a dozen or so cultivators saw Lu Kuan disappear. Only then did they react and start chattering. Did I see it wrong? This person did not wait for the passage to open and rushed out? Is he more powerful than a nascent soul cultivator? No way. I sensed that he was at the level of Qi refining Great Circle. But I remember that the last cultivator who entered the valley was not at the level of Qi refining Great Circle. What happened in the Demon Valley? Why hasn't the passage been opened yet? Let me tell you, how could a senior with such a high cultivation let us see through his true cultivation? This is definitely a senior above the nascent soul stage. His speed is so fast, it is most likely a high-level escape technique. That's right. How could a Qi refining cultivator know such a high-level escape technique? Maybe he is a soul formation ancestor. Forget it. The soul formation stage is a legendary existence. It is hard to say if anyone has reached it. Gradually, the changes in the spirit demon valley were spread out by these cultivators. It was said that a mysterious nascent soul stage, or even deity transformation stage cultivator, directly entered the demon valley in search of some strange treasure, causing the demon valley to mutate, closing the entrance, and so on. There were also many people who were interested, inquiring about the origin of this long-faced man. Inside the Yuyang sect's weapon refining pavilion in the Lingming market, there was a very clever-looking young man standing there. His cultivation was at the 12th level of the Qi refining stage. He looked at the cultivators coming and going and muttered to himself, Song Ruin and this refining pavilion is fated to snatch this mission. Suddenly, his eyes sharpened as he saw a tall and sturdy cultivator enter through the door. Unexpectedly, he was at the peak of the aura refining stage. Do you want me to introduce you? I am here to borrow the refining furnace in the backyard. Hearing the words of this burly man, Song Run was a little confused. He didn't seem to have seen this cultivator in the sect, so he said, Are you my Yang clan senior? But this furnace can only be used by the disciples of the refining peak. The person who came was Lu Kuan. He recognized this man with the surname Song at a glance. 7 years ago, when he came to this market, this junior Song had just reached the 10th level of Qi refining Great Circle. Lu Kuan smiled and handed over the token of the refining peak, saying, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Lu Kuan, a disciple of the refining peak. I have seen Junior Song in the sect before. Taking a closer look at the badge, Song Ren activated it with his dermic powers and Lu Kuan's name appeared on it. With a shocked expression, he said, Could you be senior brother Lu of Weapon Refinement Peak? I've heard a lot about you. Lu Kuan raised his eyebrows and said doubtfully, Junior Song, you know me? Many years ago, when he came to this market, he clearly had a different face. Song Ren said, Senior Lu took on 3 red name missions alone. This news has long been spread in the sect. Senior Lu appeared here. Did you complete the mission of the Smart Demon Valley? As he spoke, his face revealed a look of shock. Lu Kuan nodded and said, It took a lot of effort, but I finally completed it. Junior brother, you have verified my identity. Can I use the refining furnace now? Song Ren was stunned for a moment and immediately said, Yes, of course. Senior Lu, please follow me. Finished speaking, he brought Lu Kuan to the backyard. Song Ren looked at Lu Kuan with some fear and said, Senior Lu, 2 senior brothers of the refining peak took on the mission and will come in 2 days. At this time, there is no one else using the furnace. The 2 of them walked to the backyard in the blink of an eye. Lu Kuan said, I can use it for 2 or 3 days. Junior Song, leave it to me. If other disciples of the refining peak come, I will have to trouble them to wait for 2 days. The young man, surnamed Song, quickly nodded and said, Okay, senior brother, don't worry. I will arrange it for senior brother. Finished speaking, the young man left here. Lu Kuan looked at his arms and whispered, If I want to refine, I have to give up the demon spirit energy in one arm. Otherwise, I won't be able to use the mana in my muscles. On the way to the market, he had already used up all the demon spirit energy in his right arm. He planned to only leave the demon spirit energy in his left arm for emergencies. Following this, Lu Kuan slapped his storage bag, and light flashed on the ground as many items appeared. Apart from the pair of slightly damaged matchless rod, there were 2 black snake horns and several materials of various colors. In the past few years, Qin Yushu and Gu Tianjian both guided him in refining. Lu Kuan knew that these materials in the storage bag of the Fu brothers were the main materials they were preparing to upgrade the matchless rod. Adding on the pair of demon beast horns, he could completely refine the matchless rod. Lu Kuan looked at these materials and did not immediately refine. He muttered to himself, I still lack a material to strengthen the foundation of the magic tool. The previous matchless rod was already comparable to a magic tool. If I want to strengthen it, I don't have any higher grade materials. All right, I still have this. Lu Kuan immediately took out a few black rocks. These were the materials from the mysterious Black Island in the center of the Spirit Demon Valley. I'll first test the characteristics of this black rock. Finished speaking, Lu Kuan opened the furnace's seal and placed the black rock on the iron felt. He took out his refining hammer and started hammering with his right hand. After a day and a night, Lu Kuan looked at the unfamiliar material in his hand with surprise. This black rock was not only extremely sharp, it was also stronger than a magic tool. It was also resistant to high temperatures and was an excellent foundation material. He really didn't know how those refinement stage cultivators took it out. Lu Kuan thought about it over and over again. He planned to add 2 pieces of black rock to each long rod. Then he would start refining. Refining this black rock was very difficult. It required a combination of magic power and brute force to smelt it. To upgrade a set of high-grade magic tools, the difficult part was the carving of complementary formations inside. On top of the original foundation, one had to add a unique formation unique to a magic tool. In these past few years, Lu Kuan cultivated the soul sensing technique and nourished by the wooden bracelet. Although the strength of his consciousness was only around the 12th level of refinement, it was very refined and his control was very strong. He was quite confident in this refining. Just as Lu Kuan started to refine the magic tools, outside the small courtyard's formation, 2 men and a woman were observing Lu Kuan. One of the men was Song Ren. The other man and woman were wearing red robes. They were disciples of the Yang clan's refining peak. The man was at the 11th level of refinement, and the woman was at the 10th level of refinement. One of the men had a pale face. He was tall and thin. He opened his mouth and said, Junior Sister Chinyuro, I've heard of this senior brother Lu's name, but I've never seen him in the peak. You have a lot of friends. Do you remember him? The junior sister called Chinyuro looked quite beautiful. Her eyebrows were slightly flushed. She said in a charming voice, Senior brother Yu Qingfeng, Yuro has heard junior Uncle Qin mention this senior brother Lu. Yu Qingfeng raised his eyebrows. There was a hint of jealousy in his voice. He said, I didn't expect junior sister to be friends with junior Uncle Qin. Chinyuro's face was as red as a peach blossom. She giggled and said, Senior brother Yu, are you jealous? How could junior Uncle Qin be interested in someone as beautiful as me? I only heard junior Uncle Qin mention it when he was teaching me the art of refining. It's said that this senior brother Lu has only been in the sect for 6 years. As soon as he entered, he was taken away by the former peak master Nye and personally taught him the art of refining for 5 years. There are even rumors in the refining peak that this senior brother Lu is junior Uncle Nye's last disciple. Yu Qingfeng suddenly understood. He said, No wonder the art of refining in senior brother Lu's hands is a little strange. It seems like it's junior Uncle Nie's unique skill. Yu Qingfeng then said to Song Run, senior brother Song, has this senior brother Lu already completed the Red Name mission? Song Rin was listening with great interest. After hearing this, he said, senior brother Lu said that he completed it. However, he mentioned that something very strange happened in the spiritual demon valley. Chen Yuro revealed a curious expression. She asked Song Run in a charming voice, senior brother Song, can you tell junior sister what happened in the spiritual demon valley? Hearing this, Song Ren's spirit was shaken. He began to tell her. After 2 full days, a dark red long staff was placed at Lu Kuen's feet. He was currently at the final stage of the second artifact. He was sweating profusely. His right hand steadily and powerfully knocked on a rod-shaped artifact. The array on it had just been carved. After the array was carved, Lu Kuen's face was pale. He looked like he had used up too much of his divine sense. However, the movements of his hands did not change at all. After another few hours, the black long staff finally took shape. Under the infusion of mana from Lu Kuen's right hand, it emitted the powerful aura of a supreme grade artifact. Chapter 136. Lu Kuen looked over and saw 2 men and a woman walking in. He cupped his fists and said, so it's junior brother Song. These 2 must be the junior brothers and sisters of the weapon refining peak. The tall and thin man cupped his fists and replied, Yu Qingfeng of the weapon refining peak greets senior brother Lu. Junior sister Chen Yuro, I've long heard of senior brother Lu's great name. I've always admired you. When Chen Yuro saw Lu Kuen up close, she immediately noticed his firm and strong muscles. Her eyes were shining and her tone was filled with lust. When Yu Qingfeng saw this, he snorted lightly and said, I heard that senior brother has already completed the Red Name mission. After returning to the sect, your name will definitely spread. These missions have been in the main hall for more than 10 years. Lu Kuen showed a bit of fear on his face and said, I was lucky enough to complete it 3 months ago. If I hadn't come out last time, I would have been locked up in the Demon Valley this time, with my life and death unknown. Hearing this, Song Ren said, so senior brother Lu has also heard about the Spirit Demon Valley. Lu Kuen nodded and said, a few months ago, I met a top-level demon beast inside. This time, I plan to go in again to look for it and use its materials to improve the power of my magic weapon. However, after hearing about the Demon Valley, I could only give up. Chen Yuro's eyes lit up when she heard that. Senior brother Lu, you're not only powerful, but you're also very skilled in refining weapons. I wonder if you could help me refine some weapons? I'll pay you for it. As she spoke, she kept teasing Lu Kuen with her eyes. The meaning of her words was self-evident. When Yu Qingfeng saw this, the corner of his mouth twitched. He had long heard that this junior sister Chen Yuro had a wide range of friends. However, on the way here, he still couldn't resist this junior sister's teasing and became her guest. Now that he saw her looking at Lu Kuen, whose strength and weapon refining skills were much higher than his, he completely understood the nature of this junior sister. However, when Song Run saw Chen Yuro's attitude, a hint of desire appeared in his eyes. However, he quickly restrained himself. When Lu Kuen heard junior sister Chen, whom he had met for the first time, say such explicit words, he couldn't help but be stunned. He shook his head and said, I'm sorry, I've been refining for several days and nights, so I'm a bit tired. I'll be going to the Yang Pavilion to rest for a few days. When Song Ren heard this, he immediately said, Senior Marshal Brother Lu, I'll see you out. Then he led Lu Kuen out. Seeing the 2 of them leave, Yu Qingfeng said, somewhat mockingly, Junior Sister Chen, it looks like this senior brother Lu doesn't appreciate your kindness. This junior martial sister, Chen's expression became somewhat bitter. She said to Yu Qingfeng in a somewhat desolate tone, Senior martial brother, do you think this junior martial sister is a shameless woman? Actually, junior martial sister has her own difficulties. Yu Qingfeng coldly snorted. He couldn't help but ask, what difficulties? Junior martial sister Chen took a step forward and pressed her body against Yu Qingfeng's. Her robe's collar opened slightly, faintly revealing her deep white cleavage. She said, "Junior Marshal Sister is only in the 10th layer of chi refining. My aptitude isn't that good either. I just want to find a powerful dual cultivation partner to rely on. However, among so many people, only Senior Marshal Brother Yu treats me well. Everyone else looks at me coldly. Senior Marshal Brother, why don't you become Yuro's dual cultivation partner?" Yu Qingfeng smelled the alluring fragrance on Chen Yuro's body. His eyes were fixed on this Junior Marshal Sister's collar. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said with difficulty, "As long as Junior Marshal Sister doesn't seduce other Senior Marshal Brothers, I can consider it." Chen Yuro took a small step back and slightly closed her collar. She giggled and said, "For the next few years, Junior Marshal Sister will be refining here with Senior Marshal Brother. How could I meet other Senior Marshal Brothers? Junior Marshal Sister, why don't we go look at our residence? After all, we'll be staying here for a few years. We have to clean it up, hee. Senior Marshal Brother, you're so annoying." On the other side, Song Ren accompanied Lu Kuan to the entrance of the Yang Pavilion. Lu Kuan suddenly asked, "Junior Marshal Brother Song, you often stay in this market square. You must be very familiar with the merchants here." Song Ren patted his chest and said, "Senior Marshal Brother, you've asked the right person. I, Song Ren, have stayed in this Lingming Market Square for 10 years. You can say that I'm familiar with all the merchants here." Lu Kuan said again, "Then do you know which trading company buys demonic beast materials at a good price? Last time, Senior Marshal Brother obtained some materials in the Lingming Demonic Valley and wants to sell them. The biggest one here is the Yi clan's Greenleaf Pavilion." Lu Kuan frowned and said, "Which Yi clan?" Song Ren replied, "It's the Yi clan of Qingzhou. They're a big clan with a core formation stage ancestor. It's said that they have a history of over 1,000 years. There are many foundation establishment stage cultivators in the clan. They have many trading companies in many markets. The price of their materials is quite impressive. Their business is the best in this market square." Lu Kuan planned to sell some of the materials in the Lingming Market Square. If he returned to the Yang Market Square and sold 7,000 to 8,000 spirit stones worth of materials, it would cause some unnecessary trouble. Thank you for your guidance, Junior Marshal Brother Song. Senior Marshal Brother will first stay in the Yang Pavilion for a few days. After that, I will directly return to the sect. Junior Marshal Brother, we'll meet again someday. Then, Junior Marshal Brother will go back first. If there's a chance in the future, I'll have to trouble Senior Marshal Brother to refine my magic tool again. Okay. Seeing Lu Kuan's figure disappear into the Yang Pavilion, Song Ren's clever face revealed a bit of greed. He turned around and walked towards the crafting pavilion. When this Yang clan disciple passed by an inconspicuous merchant, a sound transmission talisman quietly flew out of his hand. After Lu Kuan entered the Yang Pavilion, he found that it was somewhat similar to the second floor of the crafting peak. They both used the 100-seed Unity Array as a defensive array. He was quite relieved and spent some spirit stones to live in it. 2 days later, Lu Kuan left the Yang Pavilion in high spirits. Previously, when he smelted the matchless rod, his divine sense was quite exhausted. However, after 2 days of recovery, he had completely recovered. After coming out, he first changed his face. If he remembered correctly, this Yi clan was the clan of the foliaceous water siblings who fought with him in the Demon Valley a few years ago. It was safer to change his face. After walking for a while, Lu Kuan arrived in front of the Greenleaf Pavilion. This trading company was very easy to recognize. The signboard was a magic tool. In the corner of the signboard, there was a simple word, Yi. Although it was not as ostentatious as the Luo Trading Company's signboard, one could still feel the style of a big clan. After he walked in, a woman in red walked up to him. "So it's a fellow Taoist at the peak of the Qi refining stage. How should I address you?" "I am Yi Qianlan, the shopkeeper of the Greenleaf Pavilion." Lu Kuan looked up and saw that it was a woman in the 10th layer of the Qi refining stage. Her appearance was mediocre. He replied, "My surname is Zhang. I'm here to sell some demon beast materials." "So it's fellow Taoist Zhang. With fellow Taoist cultivation, the materials you sell must be extraordinary. How about we move to the side hall? Lu Kuan nodded. He was not worried that the other party would use underhanded means. After the matchless rod was upgraded to a top-grade magic tool, 2 or 3 cultivators at the peak of the chi refining stage might not be able to deal with him. Moreover, there was a foundation establishment cultivator from the Yang clan here. After walking to the side, Lu Kuan's divine sense swept through the simple array of the side hall. He patted his storage bag, and 20 or so demon beast corpses appeared on the ground. The woman in red looked over, and her eyes were lifeless. She almost moaned as she muttered, "Petrifying lizard, blue-horned black bull, steel-backed pig. Heavens! There are also top-grade demon beasts." She muttered and planned to reach out her hand to touch them. Oomph! A cold snort full of tyrannical magic power awakened the woman in red. "Fellow Taoist, you didn't state a price before checking my materials. Isn't that a bit unkind?" The woman in red quickly apologized. "I was too impetuous. How about this? We'll pay 3,000 spirit stones for these materials. According to the market price, it's only 2,800 spirit stones." Lu Kuan didn't answer. Instead, he lowered his head and pondered. "Fellow Taoist Zhang, this price is definitely the best price. I'm deeply sorry for my impetuousness just now." Lu Kuan suddenly said, "Fellow Taoist Yi, I think this price is acceptable. However, I still want to buy a refining material. I wonder if fellow Taoist has it here?" The woman's face lit up. The commission from selling materials was much higher than buying materials. She hastily replied, "Fellow Taoist, please don't hesitate to ask. Our Greenleaf Pavilion has most of the refining materials." "Silver ore." The woman breathed a sigh of relief and said, "So it's silver ore." "Fellow Taoist, you've asked the right question. Silver ore is an ore unique to our Qingzhou. How much do you want? I'll go get it." Lu Kuan made a simple estimation based on the amount of spiritual arm guard used and said a number. "What? Fellow Taoist, you want so much? Didn't fellow Taoist Yi say that it's a specialty of Qingzhou?" The woman smiled bitterly and said, "It's like this. Silver ore is an associated ore, and its production is limited. Moreover, you only need to put a little bit in to refine magic tools. We have 2/3 of the amount you want." Lu Kuan's expression was a bit unsightly. He asked, "What about the markets nearby?" The woman shook her head and said, "In Luzhou, only Yang Market might have some. Even the market at the Miraculous Gate might not have some." Hearing this, Lu Kuan frowned and said, "I want all the silver ores you have here." The woman looked at the materials on the ground and said with some difficulty, "Fellow Taoist Zhang, these silver ores are worth about 4,000 spirit stones. Fellow Taoist, these..." Before she could finish, she saw the man in front of her throw out another top-rank demonic beast. "This should be enough, right? Black-feathered panther." The woman was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She couldn't help but think, is he so powerful? Can he kill such a top-rank demonic beast alone? She carefully observed the corpse and said, "Fellow Taoist, this demonic beast's fur is intact. It's worth at least 1,200 spirit stones. It's enough. Fellow Taoist, please wait a moment. I'll be back soon." Not long after, the woman came back and patted her storage bag. A pile of silver-white ores and 200 spirit stones appeared in front of Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan checked the ores one by one, nodded, and said, "Okay, let's do the deal. Fellow Taoist, you're really straightforward." After a quarter of an hour, Lu Kuan appeared outside Lingming Market. He touched his storage bag and said to himself with a headache, "I didn't expect the main material, silver ore, to be so rare. Let's go back to the sect first and see if Yang Market has any." After talking to himself, Lu Kuan summoned a small green boat and jumped on it. Magic power flashed on his right hand, and he flew in the direction of the Yang clan. Chapter 137. With the Spirit Control Arm Guard, it was very convenient for Lu Kuan to travel. He used his right hand to control the small green boat and flew at a height of several hundred feet above the ground. Lu Kuan had been calculating the other materials for the spirit control inner armor along the way, estimating whether he had enough materials left to exchange for them. He also compared the cost of the materials for the spirit control arm guard. It turns out that the spirit stones that Martial Uncle Nya asked me to pay were cheaper than those in the market. Martial Uncle Nya must be in seclusion to break through to the core formation realm. I'd better ask Martial Uncle Gu. If the sect has a lot of materials for spirit control artifacts, I'll buy them all. Lu Kuan, who was muttering these words, suddenly felt something. His expression changed, and he quickly crouched down. A red artifact flashed over Lu Kuan's head. Feeling the powerful power of the red artifact, Lu Kuan was drenched in cold sweat. If it weren't for his extraordinary spiritual sense, he would have been decapitated by the red light. Then he saw the red artifact flying back at an extremely fast speed. This time, the target of the attack wasn't him, but the small green boat under his feet. The small boat was much bigger than him, so he couldn't dodge it at all. Lu Kuan gritted his teeth, and a white light flashed in his hand. He directly put the small boat into his storage bag and quickly landed on the ground. At the same time, a supreme-grade long whip artifact appeared in his hand. The red artifact's attack missed. It paused for a moment and then rushed towards Lu Kuan. At this time, Lu Kuan held the long whip artifact in one hand and pressed the storage bag with the other. He swung his hand, and the long whip accurately hit the red artifact. The red artifact was only slightly deflected. Then, Lu Kuan's arm moved left and right, controlling the long whip artifact to wrap around the red artifact. This artifact was a red metal claw hook. The fluctuations it emitted were above that of the long whip. It was a top-grade, supreme-grade artifact. Lu Kuan's golden eye had already seen that this magical artifact was a claw hook, so he immediately took out a long whip to delay its attack. With Lu Kuan's delicate control, the long whip was already wrapped around the red claw hook. Although the claw hook was shining brightly, it was impossible for it to shake off the long whip that was wrapped around it. Lu Kuan used the telekinesis technique again, making the long whip tie a dead knot on the claw hook. The two artifacts were tightly entwined, making the red claw hook, which was emitting a powerful aura, unable to attack him. Lu Kuan also seized this opportunity and took out the small green boat again. He injected his transcendence energy into it, buffering it for a while, and safely reached the ground. His set of movements was extremely smooth and completed in a flash. After landing, Lu Kuan vigilantly looked at the red claw hook in the air. It retreated and stopped in midair. Then, a short, dark-skinned man in a gray robe appeared on the side, standing on a leaf-shaped flying magic tool. Together with the red magic tool, he slowly landed on the ground about 50 to 60 feet away from Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan's face was ugly. This man's concealment technique could make his divine sense undetectable. Then, he injected his divine sense into his eyes and activated the golden eye technique. Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator. Before, when Lu Kuan felt the strong power of the red claw hook, he had some guesses. Now that he saw that the opponent was really a Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator, his heart sank. This Foundation Establishment Stage man was looking at the long whip wrapped around the claw hook with joy. He ignored Lu Kuan and directly took off the long whip, putting it into his storage bag. Then, the short man turned his head and looked at Lu Kuan with a mocking expression. At the same time, he did not hide his Foundation Establishment Stage transcendence energy, emitting a powerful pressure that rushed towards him. Lu Kuan lowered his head, as if he could not bear the pressure of the short man's transcendence energy. Feeling that unfathomable transcendence energy, Lu Kuan's heart was instead a little excited. He had been with Gu Tianjian for many years before and had a deep understanding of the transcendence energy of a Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator. Although this person's transcendence energy is strong, it is much weaker than his martial Uncle Gu, who is in the Foundation Establishment Stage. He should be an early Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator. With the flying speed of a Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator, There is no way to escape. His eyes showed a bit of unwillingness. Lu Kuan, created my own body refinement technique. When I was at the 10th level of chi refining, I could kill several cultivators of the same level. When I was at the 11th level of chi refining, I could fight a top-level fierce badger head-on. Now that I have reached the great circle of chi refining, my weapons and physical abilities have improved a lot. Why can't I fight an early foundation establishment stage cultivator? Only battle. His eyes gradually flashed with a resolute expression, but this expression disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lu Kuan raised his head and showed a frightened expression. He summoned a high-grade defensive shield, and with a flash of transcendence energy in his right hand, it floated in front of him. The short man looked at Lu Kuan with interest as he summoned this magic tool and said, "Little brat, your battle awareness is very strong. A normal chi refining stage cultivator would have fallen to their death in that kind of situation just now, but you were actually able to land safely." Lu Kuan said with a bit of fear, "Senior is still merciful. I am a disciple of the Yang clan. I don't know if Senior has any orders for me to stop this junior. If this junior is able to do it, I will definitely serve you." "Huh, brat, you were so smart just now. Why can't you figure it out? I'm stopping you because I've taken a liking to your value. Give me your storage pouch, and I might even let you live." After Lu Kuan heard this, his expression became even more frightened and said, "Senior, you must be joking with this junior. This junior's storage pouch doesn't have anything good. The only top-grade magic tool is already in Senior's hands. If Senior is lacking magical weapons, this place is not too far from Lingming Market Square. My Sex Foundation establishment Uncle Master is there. I can introduce him to Senior. This Uncle Master is an elder of our crafting peak. His crafting skills are extraordinary. He can even craft a level 1 magical weapon." The short man showed a mocking expression and laughed. "Little brat, you really know how to talk nonsense." At this time, the one overseeing the Lingming market is an old man from the Blue Sun Peak. He only knows how to cultivate in seclusion all day long and won't leave the Yuyang Pavilion for no reason. You don't need to have any other ideas. Besides, the Lingming market is very far from here. Even if it was me, it would take me more than 2 hours to catch up to you by following your footsteps. A look of disbelief appeared on Lu Kuan's face as he said, "That's impossible. Senior, although you're a foundation establishment cultivator, you can't accurately detect the direction I was flying in. Could it be that you did something to me when we were in the market?" Lu Kuan's tone was full of confusion, and the fear in his eyes was even more intense. However, the short man didn't notice that under the shield in front of him, Lu Kuan's left arm gradually became bloodshot. The muscles on his arm slightly bulged, and a burst of energy could erupt at any time. The short man looked at Lu Kuan's expression and was very excited. For a rogue cultivator like him, the feeling of crushing a sect disciple was very good. Moreover, this man who had reached the peak of chi refining was an elite disciple of the Yang clan. Thinking that he was about to obtain a lot of resources, the short man showed an anxious expression and said, "Little brat, seeing that you gave me a top-grade magic tool at the beginning, I said so much to you. Now it's time to send you on your way in case. Hey, you little brat." But just as the short man was speaking, Lu Kuan's muscles bulged and became as indestructible as steel. His whole body emitted a red and white light, and his left arm strangely expanded to twice the size of his right arm. There was a yellow light flashing on it. Then, a dazzling white light burst out from under his feet, and his whole body quickly disappeared. As a foundation establishment stage cultivator, the short man's divine sense was much stronger than Lu Kuan's. He was the first to detect the strange changes. He quickly stirred up all the magic power in his body, and a vigorous magic shield appeared around him. At the same time, he also used his claw magic tool to block in front of him. Then, his divine sense detected an incomparably huge arm, raising a casserole pot-sized fist and hammering towards him from the side. In just one hit, his magic shield dimmed. Impossible. This foundation establishment stage, Cultivator, simply couldn't believe that this chi refining stage, Cultivator's fist, could be so powerful. It was even more powerful than a primary top-grade defensive magic. Could it be that this person is a second-grade demon beast? The short man couldn't help but have this thought in his mind. The casserole pot-sized fist once again swung over. This second attack directly broke the foundation establishment stage, Cultivator's defensive magic shield. The short man was indeed a foundation establishment stage Cultivator. He also had a lot of combat experience. He wasn't scared by Lu Kuan. Instead, he took advantage of the time when the defensive magic shield blocked the attack to drive his top-grade magic tool, the Flaming Sun Claw, towards Lu Kuan's third punch. Bang! A loud sound rang out. This left fist directly hit the top-grade magic tool. The powerful magic power contained in it made Lu Kuan's body shake, and he fiercely retreated a few steps. Although the giant strength of his arm was incomparably powerful, it couldn't compare to the power of a magic tool used by a foundation establishment stage Cultivator. The short man took advantage of this gap and desperately threw out a pile of talismans. At the same time, his magic shield appeared again. Then he took out a top-grade defensive shield and surrounded his body. Lu Kuan's body ignited a Yuan fire shield. Then, the Yuan fire on his body gradually spread to his left arm. He used the Yuan exploding steps and rushed forward. He didn't put these low-grade talismans in his eyes. Seeing this scene, the short man immediately used the top-grade shield to block in front of him. Who knew that, after 2 flashes, Lu Kuan would directly appear behind him. His flaming left arm carried a flaming fist and bombarded the defensive magic shield, shattering it in one blow. Then the fist hit the shield that was just in time to defend. Seeing that his attack didn't manage to kill his opponent, Lu Kuan revealed a somewhat vexed expression, because in just a few short attacks, he had already exhausted the demon's spiritual force in his left arm. His left arm slowly returned to its normal size. His face also became incomparably pale. Not only did it consume the demon's spiritual energy, it also consumed Lu Kuan's blood essence. Seeing that Lu Kuan's terrifying left arm returned to normal, and even looked a bit weak, the short man's eyes lit up. Good chance. Chapter 138. Seeing this, Lu Kuan gritted his teeth and took out 2 long rods that exuded the aura of a top-grade magic tool. While using the exploding essence steps to dodge the attack of the Flaming Sun Claw, he fused the newly refined magic tools together. In the blink of an eye, a red and black giant rod appeared in his hand, still burning with raging flames. It's actually a set of top-grade magic tools. How can one person use it? Even the divine sense of a foundation establishment stage Cultivator would barely be able to use it. Feeling the terrifying aura of the giant rod, the short man's face was extremely ugly. He moved the Flaming Sun Claw behind him and used the shield in front of him to defend. This strange move of the Yang clan disciple disappeared in place and appeared beside him in the blink of an eye. The short man was already prepared and attacked the giant rod with the 2 magic tools in front and behind him. Dang! A loud sound echoed. The 3 weapons fiercely intertwined. Although the giant rod's material grade was higher than the Flaming Sun Claw and the shield, these 2 magic tools were supported by the foundation establishment stage's magic power and were equally powerful. After a stalemate, Lu Kuan, holding the giant rod, was slowly suppressed by the opponent's powerful magic power and slowly retreated. Lu Kuan's eyes flashed, and he roared. The fire shield on his arm trembled violently, and the flames on the giant rod emitted a glaring light and violently exploded. He used the explosive power of the fire to repel the opponent. The short man was very close and was immediately blown away by this huge power. However, with the protection of the magic power shield and the protection of the 2 top-grade magic tools, he didn't suffer any injuries. Lu Kuan bent his legs slightly and dispersed the power of the explosion to all parts of his body. He didn't retreat. His face was scorched black and his hair and eyebrows had some flames. The clothes on his upper body had been burned away, revealing his strong muscles. Seeing the short man being blown away, he didn't hesitate at all and quickly chased after him with flames flickering under his feet. Seeing the flames under Lu Kuan's feet, the short man suddenly had a flash of light in his mind. Just as he was about to move, Lu Kuan had already arrived in front of him. The same sound of weapons clashing rang out as the flaming sun claw and the top-grade shield once again blocked Lu Kuan's matchless staff. Damn it! If it weren't for my limited resources, I wouldn't have been able to upgrade my magic tool to the level of top-grade 1. Otherwise, even if his attack method was strange, he wouldn't have been a match for a top-grade 1 magic tool. There was another explosion of light. This time, the short man finally seized the opportunity. He slapped his storage pouch and quickly summoned the leaf-shaped flying magic tool. During the battle just now, he had observed that every time Lu Kuan burst out with speed, there would be a flash of fire under his feet, leaving a medium-sized pit on the ground, as if it had been blasted open by a fireball. It was very similar to the legendary fire escape technique. However, the fire escape technique was a technique that only completion-level cultivators could use. Only by relying on their powerful spiritual energy could they use it in the air. Lu Kuan's cultivation level was only at the chi condensation stage. This opponent's strange movement technique could only be used on the ground. But just now, he had been suppressed by Lu Kuan's attacks until he couldn't breathe. Lu Kuan's spiritual energy level wasn't high, but the power contained in each of his attacks was astonishing. The giant staff magic tool also transmitted a vibrating force, making him unable to divert his attention to take out his flying magic tool. Fortunately, this time, when there was a gap in his attack, he seized the opportunity to fly into the air. From afar, he looked at Lu Kuan on the ground, who didn't continue to attack. He believed in his own judgment even more. He began to control the red claw magic tool in the air, attacking Lu Kuan. When Lu Kuan saw the short man fly into the air, his left arm couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't maintain the combination of the matchless staff and could only use both hands to hold the staff. At the same time, he saw the weapon attack again. He could only use both of his staffs to block the attack. Even though the matchless staff had been upgraded to a top-grade magic tool, if he didn't use a combination attack technique, he simply couldn't block a top-grade magic tool that contained foundation establishment stage spiritual energy. Just now, Lu Kuan only used both of his staffs to block the attack, but his whole body was shaken to the point of discomfort. Lu Kuan looked at the short man flying in the air. Because he used a top-grade magic tool set, there weren't many magic tools left in his body. He had a headache. In the entire battle, I've always been in the lead, but I still couldn't kill the opponent. A foundation establishment stage cultivator is really terrifying. When a short man flying in the air saw Lu Kuan's magic tool set separate, he immediately laughed. So you don't have much spiritual energy left. I knew it. How could a mere chi condensation stage spiritual energy be able to use a top-grade magic tool set for a long time? Lu Kuan heard the words from the sky, but didn't say anything. He put away the matchless staff, and his right hand grabbed the high-grade defensive shield that fell on the ground before. While dodging the flaming sun claw, he quietly hid the remaining spiritual energy in his right arm bit by bit. The short man in the air looked at the Yang clan disciple who was hiding on the ground, and the stuffy feeling in his heart eased a lot. He recalled the battle on the ground just now and was very scared. If it wasn't for the fact that my spiritual sense completely suppressed him and I was able to detect many of his moves in time, I'm afraid I would have died many times over. This Yang clan disciple is even more powerful than that brat said. No wonder he could kill a top-grade demon beast in the sagacious Demon Valley. After I kill him in a while, not only will that top-grade magic tool set fall in my hands, he might also have this strange combat technique. At that time, my strength will greatly increase, and I'll have some hope of reaching the Jinan Dao. I don't even have a trace of spiritual energy left. The short man looked at Lu Kuan. There were no fluctuations of spiritual energy in his body, and his right hand was still holding that somewhat ridiculous-looking shield. Just now, he relied on that movement technique that seemed to be the fire escape technique to last for so long. And he also used up all of his spiritual energy. Who knows, I might even be able to obtain a mysterious fire escape technique. The short man didn't approach Lu Kuan because of his lack of spiritual energy, nor did he land on the ground. Instead, he floated diagonally above Lu Kuan, about 10 feet above the ground. The powerful spiritual energy barrier of the Foundation establishment stage still enveloped his body, and even that top-grade defensive shield was still revolving around him. He looked at Lu Kuan's half-lowered face, without a trace of blood, and said, "Brat, don't resent me. If you want to hate, then hate that junior brother song of yours. Goodbye." After he finished speaking, he waved his hand, stirred up his spiritual energy, and controlled the flaming sun claw, intending to deliver the final blow to Lu Kuan. Right at this moment, Lu Kuan raised his head, and his eyes blossomed with a dazzling golden light. Against the backdrop of his deathly pale face, it was especially bright. How is this the gaze of a person who's about to die? In an instant, the short man felt a terrifying aura that made one's heart palpitate explode from Lu Kuan's body. Then, an extremely dazzling silver-white light flashed and disappeared. The short man stared blankly in front of him. The flaming sun claw in midair, and the top-grade defensive shield fell down as if no one was controlling it. A small hole appeared in the middle of that powerful spiritual energy barrier, and the entire barrier subsequently shattered. At the same time, a trace of blood slowly flowed out from between the short man's eyebrows. His entire person's eyes dimmed, and he fell from the sky. The golden light in Lu Kuan's eyes dissipated, and his eyes were somewhat dull and lifeless. However, he looked at his right arm, and then looked at the ground not far behind the short man, and revealed an expression of shock. I didn't expect this move to be so powerful. On the ground behind the dead building Foundation stage Cultivator was a rather dim silver-white dagger. It was none other than the supreme-grade dagger magical item that Lu Kuan had obtained from Zhang Tu's storage bag years ago. Such a small magic tool was completely unsuitable for Lu Kuan's close combat. However, after he obtained this knife, he continuously practiced throwing knives in the Iron Fist school, wanting to use it as his long-range attack method. With a GoldenEye Divine ability, he could achieve 100 hits without missing a single time. However, his physical spiritual energy could not be used on this knife, because by the time the knife hit the target, Lu Kuan's hand had already separated from the knife, and the output of spiritual energy was cut off. In this way, the power of the knife was only Lu Kuan's physical strength. There is only one way to make the knife contain both the strength of the physical body and the power of spiritual energy. This method was speed. The instant the throwing knife left the hand, the power of the spiritual energy was the strongest. As the time it took to leave the hand increased, this power would become weaker and weaker. The faster the speed at which it hit the target, the greater the power of the throwing knife. Some time ago, Lu Kuan activated the Giant Arm Divine ability in the Smart Demon Valley. With the powerful strength of a giant arm, he could completely make this small knife magic tool hit the enemy at lightning speed. After several battles in the Smart Demon Valley, Lu Kuan could barely use a portion of his blood essence to make the Giant Arm Divine ability appear for a few breaths of time when he had no demon spiritual energy. Just now, the battle with the short man on the ground was extremely fast, and he did not think of this trump card at all. However, when the short man flew into the air, Lu Kuan finally thought of this move. First, when he dodged the attack, he waited for an opportunity to hide a portion of his spiritual energy entering the muscles of his right arm, making the opponent feel that he had no spiritual energy and let down his guard. Then he picked up the high-grade defensive shield to cover the small knife magic tool in his hand. Moreover, the shield could also block his right arm, so that the short man could not see the scene of the blood essence surging in his arm. Before the short man's final attack, Lu Kuan looked at the space between his eyebrows, seized this opportunity, and used the instantaneous explosion of the Giant Arm Divine ability to use this amazing knife. Not only did it instantly break the magical energy shield, but the spiritual energy contained in the knife also destroyed the soul in the sea of consciousness. Lu Kuan felt the depleted spiritual energy in his body and the loss of more than half of the blood essence in his body. He was a little emotional. In this battle, it could be said that he used all his means and killed the opponent unexpectedly. Lu Kuan slowly stood up, put away the few top-grade magic tools on the ground, nodded in satisfaction, and walked to the side of the short man, took his storage bag, and showed a happy expression. This is a big harvest. The materials for the spirit-controlling inner armor are definitely not a problem. Thinking of a short man's last words, Lu Kuan's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. So, it's Junior Brother's song. Very good. Chapter 139. Lu Kuan sat cross-legged in a cave and slowly opened his eyes. He relied on the spirit control bracer to convert the magic power in his arm. Then, he did not continue to restore his magic power. Instead, he took out the storage pouch of the Foundation Establishment Cultivator from before. Magic power flashed in his hand, and he poured it forward. A pile of spirit stones and various materials appeared on the ground. Lu Kuan frowned and muttered to himself, "This Foundation Establishment loose cultivator is too poor. I thought he would have at least a few thousand low-grade spirit stones on him. I didn't expect him to only have a little more than 1,000. But how could Lu Kuan know that this short man was already considered a loose cultivator with some status? Ordinary loose cultivators in the early Foundation establishment stage would have already spent most of their spirit stones when preparing to break through to the chi condensation stage. But there are quite a lot of refining materials. Also, his top-grade magic tools are quite a harvest. I have no use for this red claw, so I can sell it. This way, I could buy more refining materials. And what is this? He suddenly saw a few familiar objects. Lu Kuan waved his hand, and 3 talisman-like magic tools floated out. The words Yang Clan were printed on the front. Isn't this my Yang Clan's talisman? Why does he have it here? Then, Lu Kuan poured his magic power into it. It's the disciples of the Refining Peak, Chaoyang Peak, and Jade's Sun Peak. Could it be that they were all ambushed and killed by this Foundation Establishment Cultivator? Lu Kuan coldly snorted and muttered to himself, "It must be that Junior Brother Song's doing. It seems like this isn't the first time he's done something like this. You almost killed me, Lu Kuan. I must take revenge. Otherwise, if you know that I'm not dead, you might do something else in secret." Then, Lu Kuan looked at his own body and frowned. What is it that allowed this Foundation Establishment Cultivator to track me from so far away? He lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Then, he began to search through the items on the ground. Not long after, he took out a formation plate and channeled his magic power into it. He saw the needle on the disc point to his position. Lu Kuan adjusted the disc and finally realized that the needle was pointing to his waist. Lu Kuan observed carefully with his golden eyes and found a very small black powder attached to his storage pouch. At this black powder, Lu Kuan seemed to have thought of something and rummaged through the pile of items. Not long after, he found a jet black stone. The surface of this stone was covered in powder, exactly the same as the one on his storage bag. He then put the black stone near his inventory bag. In the blink of an eye, the black powder on the storage bag was sucked into the stone. At the same time, the tracking formation plate also lost its effect. Seeing this, Lu Kuan revealed a look of understanding. So this tracking magic tool was refined with black magnetic ore. No wonder the tracking effect is so good. Moreover, the black magnetic ore and the materials of the storage bag have a mutual attraction effect. Its powder easily absorbs onto the storage bag. No wonder my divine sense didn't detect it. This treasure's value isn't small. It's a bargain. After solving the problem of being tracked, Lu Kuan immediately left the cave and found a new place to heal. Previously, he wasn't in a hurry to recover all of his magic power because he wasn't sure if his opponent had other Foundation Establishment cultivators. In his current state, he definitely wasn't a match. Several days later, In the Lingming market, in the Yang clan's tool refining pavilion, Songren had just finished greeting a group of cultivators who were buying magic tools. When he saw a late Qi refining cultivator enter, he immediately went to greet him enthusiastically. In fact, Songren's task was only to oversee the tool refining pavilion and prevent rogue cultivators from deliberately causing trouble. At the same time, he also helped the tool refining pavilion sell some top-grade magic tools. He didn't need to greet every single cultivator who came in. He could just let mortals receive them. If other Yang clan cultivators saw this scene, they wouldn't be surprised. This junior martial brother song was quite famous in the clan. Almost all the Qi refining disciples knew him. This was because Songren liked to make friends with all kinds of low-level cultivators. Whether they were in the middle Qi refining stage or late Qi refining stage, he would get to know them and chat with them. However, only Songren knew that he was doing this to obtain information about these cultivators. Many years ago, Songren's first task was this tool refining pavilion in the Lingming market. However, on the way to the market, he was ambushed by several rogue cultivators and almost lost his life. After incessantly begging for mercy, the leader of these rogue cultivators finally agreed to let him go. However, he had to swear a soul oath to help them collect information about the various rogue cultivators in the Lingming market and mark them as tracking marks. As a disciple who carried out tasks in the Yang clan's tool refining pavilion, he had a natural advantage. Based on the trust others had in the Yang clan, their vigilance when speaking would be lowered a lot. The purpose of collecting information was to screen out the cultivators who had quite a bit of value. Then, Songren would sprinkle tracking materials on them. Then, these ruthless rogue cultivators would ambush this prey in a place far away from the Lingming market. Every time this group of people ambushed, they were extremely cautious. They only attacked prey that they were completely sure of. Every time they attacked, they did it neatly and without leaving any traces. In addition, those who died were rogue cultivators. Not many people found it too strange that they died near the Lingming Demon Valley. Every time these people harvested, they would share a little with Songren. First, they would let him taste the sweetness of killing and robbing, and second, they would drag him down. At first, Songren was unwilling to do this. However, as more and more resources and spirit stones were distributed to him, he began to waver. In the first few years, he relied on these resources to advance to the late Qi refining stage. Later, his greedy heart became heavier and heavier. Every time he accepted a task in the Lingming market, his courage also grew, and he stared at his own sect's Qi refining disciples. Songren was very smart. The few fellow disciples he chose were those who came to the Lingming Demon Valley to carry out tasks. Although some tasks did not require them to go deep into the Demon Valley and were relatively simple, the dangers in the Lingming Demon Valley were all sudden. Even if these people died, it would be thought that they encountered a special situation while carrying out the task. No one would suspect Songren at all. Previously, when Lu Kuan came to the tool refining pavilion, Songren felt that Lu Kuan's strength was very strong, so he did not have too much thought. However, when he saw Lu Kuan refining 2 top-grade magic tools in a row, there was a bit of greed in his heart. In addition, half a year ago, the leader of the rogue cultivators succeeded in building his foundation. When Songren sent Lu Kuan to the Yang pavilion, he quietly sprinkled tracking materials. Songren sent off a rogue cultivator in the late Qi refining stage with a smile on his face. Then, he stood to the side and looked at the various cultivators outside. In his mind, he was still thinking about the scene of him sprinkling the tracking materials on Lu Kuan's storage bag. Senior brother Lu, if you want to blame someone, blame your senior brother's high status. If I did not cooperate with this group of people, how could junior brother become a cultivator in the 12th layer of Qi refining at such a young age? If he accumulated some more resources, he could even break through to the foundation establishment stage. But these days have passed. Why hasn't that guy sent me any news? In the past, he would always notify me as soon as possible. Could it be that he failed? It shouldn't be. The strength of a foundation establishment stage cultivator is not comparable to a chi refining stage cultivator. It's better to wait for another 2 days. Maybe that person was too far away from the Lingming market to be safe. Just as Song Run was letting his imagination run wild, Chun Yuro, who was wearing a pink dress, walked forward from the backyard. Her face was a little red, and the collar of her dress was slightly open. A burst of lust hit him in the face. She looked at Song Ren's back, and her moist eyes shone brightly. Her voice was soft and charming, interrupting Song Ren's thoughts. "Senior brother Song, you're still greeting other cultivators." Song Ren heard her and turned around. Seeing this junior sister full of lust, he felt as if something was tickling his heart. His breathing was slightly hurried, and he replied, "So it's junior sister Chun. Junior sister must also know that the more high-priced magic tools I sell, the higher the completion rate of my mission. Only then can I accumulate more contribution points to exchange for foundation establishment pills." Junior sister Chun looked at Song Run with her eyes shining. She walked forward and said, "Senior brother Song, you're not even 30 years old yet, but your cultivation has already reached the 12th layer of chi refining. You're already preparing to enter the foundation establishment stage. You're really young and promising." Hearing junior sister Chin's praise, Songren couldn't help but feel a little proud. He secretly glanced at junior sister Chin's chest and said, "Junior sister looks like you're only in your 20s, but your cultivation has already reached the late stage of chi refining. In terms of talent, senior brother is far inferior." Seeing Song Ren's gaze, Chun Yuro giggled and said, "Senior brother, do you know? Actually, you and I are quite fated." Song Ren was distracted by Chun Yuro's laughter. He stared at her seductive and alluring face and blurted out, "What do you mean by fate? Is it fate?" Annoying. What is senior brother thinking? Junior sister and senior brother were both introduced into the sect by Martial Uncle Sunday. Don't you think this is fate? Songren showed an expression of sudden realization, but his gaze towards Chun Yuro became even more heated. It must be known that not all chi refining disciples were selected from the Yang market. There were many who were introduced by foundation establishment disciples. Every foundation establishment disciple had 3 spots. Most of these disciples had average talent. They were either the relatives of these foundation establishment cultivators, or they paid a large price to enter the sect. With these 2 methods, the entire Yu Yang sect only had about 500 disciples at the chi refining stage. Only when the number of disciples at the chi refining stage increased, the number of cultivators at the foundation establishment stage could be maintained at about 100. Song Ren and Chun Yuro spent a large amount of money to invite the Yang clan's foundation establishment cultivators to be their guarantor. After entering the Yang clan, they were practically penniless. He, Song Ren, used this method to accumulate resources and cultivate to the 12th level of chi refining. But how did Chun Yuro cultivate to the late stage of chi refining at such a young age? Songren couldn't help but have this kind of doubt in his mind. Chun Yuro said to him again, "Senior brother Song, junior sister wants to go to the lake to take a bath. This Lingming market only has well water. It's cold and unbearable. I don't know if senior brother can accompany junior sister. There are a lot of loose cultivators here. Junior sister is a bit scared." Songren wasn't a fool. He immediately understood the meaning of these words. He threw away the doubts in his mind and said excitedly, "Junior sister, don't worry. Leave this matter to me." Finished speaking, Songren walked out of the tool refining pavilion with this coquettish junior sister under the envious gaze of another middle stage chi refining disciple in the shop. Bang! Just after taking 2 steps, Songren bumped into a person. With a beauty beside him, he couldn't help but feel a bit angry. He raised his head and saw a big bald man wearing a gray robe with a fierce face. His magic power was incomparably strong. He was actually at the great circle of chi refining. Songren swallowed back the words he was about to curse. Facing a cultivator with such strength, he didn't dare to be too presumptuous. This big man seemed to have no feelings for Songren. He was muttering to himself and rolling an extremely hot small fireball in his hand. Senior brother Song, why are you in a daze? This cultivator must be obsessed with magic. Let's hurry up and go. Hearing this, Song Ren nodded and threw this big bald man to the back of his mind. The two of them walked out of the Lingming Demon Valley. Just after the two of them walked far away, the big bald man's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. He was Lu Kuan, who had changed his appearance. After killing this Foundation establishment cultivator, Lu Kuan hid in a place to heal his wounds. It took him a few days to completely replenish his lost essence and blood. His muscles and magic power were also restored to the peak. The previous battle had caused his eyebrows and hair to be burned off. He simply disguised himself as this appearance. He had already arrived at the Lingming marketplace a day ago and waited near the tool refining pavilion. He pretended to study magic and waited for Song Ren to come out of the valley. Many passers-by were afraid of his profound magic power, and no one disturbed him. Just now, when he saw Song Ren come out, he collided with him and took the opportunity to sprinkle some black magnetic or powder on his storage bag. Song Ren would never have thought that this method would be used on himself. After a full hour, Lu Kuan slowly walked out of the Lingming marketplace. He took out the tracking magic tool and injected magic power into it. After determining their position, he called out the small green boat and flew in a direction. The speed of the small green boat was not comparable to that of a Foundation establishment cultivator. However, the small green boat was still a high-grade magic item. Under the control of his perfected magic power, it was much faster than the flying magic items of ordinary cultivators. Hey, the two of them are not moving. Lu Kuan spent the time of the meal to get close to where Song Ren was. He landed and used an invisibility spell on himself. He withdrew his divine sense and magic power and slowly walked forward. Not long after, he arrived at a lake. Lu Kuan stared at the scene in front of him, dumbfounded. There were two naked bodies rolling around on the shore of the lake, entangling with each other, accompanied by bursts of panting and intense pa-pa sounds. I didn't expect this junior sister Chun to be so coquettish. Before, she seduced me in front of everyone. I didn't expect that in just a few days, she would hook up with Song Ren. Hey, something's not right. The two entangled people stopped rolling. Junior sister Chin's white and plump body sat cross-legged on top of Song Ren. She wriggled crazily, her hands pressed firmly on Song Ren's stomach. Chapter 140. After Song Ren's magic power disappeared, Chun Yuro's body suddenly erupted with an astonishing aura, and a huge wave of magic power was emitted. Lu Kuan subconsciously used the golden eye technique to observe. At this moment, he discovered that she had already reached the peak of chi refining. Who is it? After Lu Kuan used the golden eye technique, Chun Yuro actually sensed the wave of divine sense on his side. It was obvious that her divine sense was above Lu Kuan's. Not good. Lu Kuan saw a red light rapidly flying towards him. The speed was so fast that even he was shocked. Light flashed under his feet, and he quickly dodged to the side. However, he was still one step too late. His left arm was already injured, and there was a very small bloody hole. Some blood flowed out, and the primordial fire shield couldn't block it at all. As Lu Kuan dodged, his other hand quickly took out a top-grade magic shield. At the same time, he injected his magic power into it, causing it to shine brightly and block his side. Lu Kuan felt the speed and penetrating power of the red light. For safety's sake, he took defensive measures. Clang! The red light hit Lu Kuan's shield, making an ear-piercing sound of friction. At this time, Lu Kuan saw clearly that it was actually a small flying needle. If he hadn't taken out the shield he obtained from the Foundation establishment cultivator in time, the second attack would have been extremely dangerous. Looking at the flying needle that was trying to penetrate his shield, Lu Kuan let out a cold snort. The primordial fire shield on his uninjured right arm flickered, and the veins on his arm bulged. He slammed the shield forward, and in an instant, the red light was sent flying. Then, Lu Kuan took out a wood attribute spirit stone with his left hand. At the same time, his eyes shone brightly. The top-grade magic shield on his right hand quickly blocked the flying needle that was extremely fast. Chun Yuro's seductive voice drifted into his ears. So it's you. I thought you were concentrating on cultivating your spells in the marketplace. I didn't expect you to take a fancy to my beauty and secretly follow me here, waiting for an opportunity to peep. When Lu Kuan's invisibility technique was broken, Chun Yuro had already discovered the male cultivator hiding nearby. It was the bald-headed man that Song Ren had bumped into in the spiritual brightness makeshift market. Lu Kuan then heard the woman's seductive laughter. Fellow Taoist, if you like me, feel free to tell me. I like fellow Taoist's burly figure the most. This little girl will definitely give you a different kind of pleasure. Lu Kuan's expression changed when he heard Chun Yuro's voice. He was shocked. Bewitching technique. Lu Kuan and Shan Mengyao had been together for a long time, so it could be said that he knew a lot about the art of bewitchment. When Shan Mengyao spoke the first sentence, he felt a little strange. When he said the second sentence, the wooden bracelet on his chest gave off a cool feeling. No, this feeling is a lot weaker than the art of bewitching technique. After focusing his mind, Lu Kuan was no longer affected by it. Chun Yuro saw that the bald-headed man didn't respond to her words at all. Moreover, his injured arm was quickly recovering. Her expression was a little ugly. She felt that this cultivator at the peak of qi refining was extremely difficult to deal with. After Lu Kuan's wound recovered, he put the shield on his left arm and took out a red claw hook with his right hand. He rushed towards a still naked woman. Flames flickered under his feet. His body moved left and right. No matter how fast the red flying needle was, it couldn't hit Lu Kuan in a short time. Offense is the best defense. After fighting with the Foundation Establishment Cultivator, Lu Kuan's combat awareness had a breakthrough. In the blink of an eye, he came up with the best response. Chun Yuro looked at the rapidly approaching bald-headed man. She helplessly took out a pink brocade handkerchief and turned it into a huge pink barrier in front of her. The red claw clawed at the pink brocade handkerchief. An ear-piercing sound rang out. It was like the sound of fingernails scratching on a smooth wooden board. It was extremely irritating to hear. Lu Kuan held the shield with his left hand and casually blocked the red flying needle. He made a light sound of surprise. He discovered that when Chun Yuro used this top-grade brocade handkerchief magic tool, the speed and penetrating power of the red flying needle decreased by a lot. Although her divine sense isn't weak, she can't operate the flying needle to its maximum speed while controlling two top-grade magic tools at the same time. Lu Kuan thought in his heart. However, the speed of his hands didn't slow down. He unceasingly used his footwork to attack this strange junior apprentice sister of the same sect. However, the red claw magic tool in Lu Kuan's hands was unable to display all of his strength. For the time being, it couldn't break through the brocade handkerchief's defense. At this time, Chun Yuro was somewhat regretful that she made the first move. If she had retreated earlier, she wouldn't have provoked this person at all. After she sucked Yu Qing Feng dry, she used a secret technique to suppress the magic power she absorbed. After that, she met Songren. Thinking that she was about to leave the Yang clan, she was greedy and lured him out. After sucking dry the magic power and essence of two late-stage qi refinement cultivators, she suddenly reached the great circle of qi refinement. With a sudden increase in her magic power and divine sense, she suddenly discovered this cultivator who was spying on her. She planned to use this supreme-grade flying needle magic tool that she had painstakingly obtained to kill him with lightning speed. Who knew that this immortal cultivator's reaction speed was extremely fast? Moreover, his escape technique was strange, and he even had some kind of secret healing technique. Not long after the battle started, the two sides turned around. She, who made the first move, was completely suppressed. This male immortal cultivator didn't react to her bewitching technique at all. Moreover, facing this naked and coquettish woman, he didn't have the slightest bit of pity. My magic power at the great circle of chi refinement is still unstable. In the long run, I may not be a match for this strange, immortal cultivator. I better think of a way to escape. Just as Chun Yuro was about to retreat, she suddenly felt a strong wave of energy in front of her. She looked forward. These two top-grade magic tools. So your senior brother Lu? Chun Yuro's face was full of shock as she looked at the bald man, holding two top-grade long staffs in front of her. She had successfully refined these two long staff Dharma artifacts right before her eyes, so she immediately recognized them. Lu Kuin's face was expressionless as he coldly looked at the naked woman. He held a long rod in each of his hands, and a nearly white primordial fire burned on the rods. The two rods danced, attacking the opponent without mercy. Chun Yuro couldn't care less about controlling the red, flying needle. She focused all her attention on controlling the top-grade silk handkerchief magic tool. These two top-grade long staffs looked much more powerful than the red claw. Moreover, the other party was using both of them at the same time. Sure enough, when these two top-grade long staffs hit her silk handkerchief, the magic power in her body surged. Immediately after, the other party launched a continuous attack. Chun Yuro's face was full of fear. She blinked at Lu Kuin crazily. This wave of attack actually made her unable to beg for mercy. Not only did her silk handkerchief become dim, but her internal organs also suffered from waves of shock. If Lu Kuin didn't stop, she would be shocked to death by this continuous attack. Lu Kuin saw this junior sister Chen's face full of begging and stopped attacking. However, he still held the two staffs in his hands. The primordial fire shield on the surface of his body didn't disappear. Chun Yuro patted her exposed breasts and forced a smile. She said, "Thank you for showing mercy, senior brother Lu." Lu Kuin returned to his original face. He used the long staffs to point at Song Run, who was pretending to be a corpse by the lake. He said coldly, "My Yang clan shouldn't have such a vicious secret technique. Speak, who are you?" Junior sister is Chun Yuro from the weapon refining peak. Senior brother can find a fellow disciple and ask. As for this secret technique, junior sister obtained it by chance. I don't know much about it. I thought it was just a normal dual cultivation technique. I try to cultivate it with senior brother Song. Who knew that something like this would happen? After saying this, junior sister Chun revealed a weeping expression, as if she was sad for Song Run. Hearing this, Lu Kuin glanced at her. The primordial fire on the two staffs surged even more violently. Seeing this, Chun Yuro knew that she couldn't hide these words from this terrifying senior brother in front of her. She quickly said, "Senior brother, junior sister also cultivated this technique in order to reach the foundation establishment stage as soon as possible. I hope senior brother can spare junior sister's life." Junior sister is willing to give this dual cultivation technique to senior brother. There are also male cultivators in it. This way, senior brother can wantonly pluck female cultivators. When she said this, Chun Yuro revealed a shy expression, as if she was embarrassed by this topic. Lu Kuin shook his head and looked at this woman with a mocking expression. He didn't say a word. His two staffs erupted with an even stronger aura, and he quickly attacked. He wasn't confused by her words at all. "Ah, senior brother, spare me. I'm a disciple of the miraculous gate. If senior brother can spare me, I'm willing to give you a foundation establishment pill as thanks." Chun Yuro screamed, and her beautiful face turned pale. Lu Kuin acted as if he didn't hear this sentence. His two staffs quickly hammered her defensive magical artifact. Although Chun Yuro's brocade handkerchief was quite sharp in front of Lu Kuin's terrifying storm-like attacks, it didn't have much of a defensive effect. In the end, Chun Yuro was shaken to death, just like the Fu brothers in the past. Lu Kuin looked at the plump corpse lying on the ground, shook his head, and said, "No matter how powerful the dual cultivation technique is, it's useless to me. If you were a disciple of the miraculous gate, I would kill you even more. Otherwise, if you called the elders of the sect, wouldn't I be dead?" Then Lu Kuin took the two people's storage pouches and the magical artifacts on the ground. However, when he took the red flying needle, he said with some regret. This red flying needle's penetrative power and speed are very strong, but it doesn't have a strong point. Even if it uses the giant arm divine ability, its power is still weaker than my flying knife. But for a traditional cultivator, it's an extremely sharp magical artifact. He burned the corpse and clothes on the ground with his elemental fire and walked toward Song Run. Song Run was still alive, and there were fluctuations of divine sense. However, the essence and mana of his body had been sucked dry, so his life was not in danger for now. Seeing Lu Kuan approaching, Song Ren's eyes kept flashing, and he looked at Lu Kuan as if he was begging. His divine sense was still there, and he clearly saw the battle between the two. He couldn't help but panic. He knew that the Red Claw was a Foundation Establishment cultivator's magical artifact. Now that the Red Claw was in Lu Kuan's hands, there was no need to think. The Foundation Establishment cultivator must be dead. He didn't think that this senior apprentice brother Lu could kill a Foundation Establishment cultivator. This was almost impossible. Moreover, this senior apprentice brother Lu had been tailing them and didn't show his face. Maybe he already knew that it was him who did it. Lu Kuan looked at Song Ren's increasingly panicked eyes and said in a low voice, "Song Ren, you didn't think that I would still be alive. I, Lu Kuan, will definitely take revenge. You can go in peace." Chapter 141. Lu Kuan looked at the remaining traces of rolling on the ground and couldn't help but whisper, "It seems that junior brother you must have also been killed. When a martial uncle in charge of the market finds out, he will definitely think that the murderer is Chun Yuro. I don't have any suspicions, but was what the woman said at the end true?" After muttering for a while, Lu Kuan checked the two storage pouches and found that they were not cheap. They were about the same as the Foundation Establishment cultivator, with more than 1,000 spirit stones. In addition to the flying needles and the handkerchief, Chun Yuro's storage pouch also contained many high-grade magic tools, many refining materials, and talismans. Many of the items should have belonged to Yu Qing Feng. However, the dual cultivation technique that the woman spoke of was not found, nor was there any item related to the miraculous gate. Lu Kuan thought for a while and felt that this was the case. Otherwise, she would have been discovered by the powerful seniors of the Yang clan. As for Song Ren's storage pouch, other than spirit stones, there was only one high-grade magic tool and a few other small items. Then Lu Kuan saw his sect token inside. He could only destroy this token. The value of Song Ren's storage pouch was not great, which meant that the sect must have a lot of contribution points. However, Lu Kuan could not obtain it. Thinking of his recent gains, just the low-grade spirit stones alone were close to 4,000 pieces, 5 high-grade magic tools, and many high-grade magic tools. There were also various talismans, pills, and materials. The value of these items was even greater than what he had gained in the Demon Valley. Lu Kuan could not help but think, no wonder so many cultivators want to kill people and steal their treasures. It is indeed very tempting, but the risk is much higher than hunting monsters. Every demonic beast's weakness and means of attack are always recorded. If you put in some effort, you can find out. However, immortal cultivators are different. Every one of them has different magical artifacts, different secret techniques, and different trump cards. If you're not careful, you could be killed, just like these people who encountered me. Even I was very lucky. If Chun Yuro's magic was a bit purer, the flying needles would have killed me in the first strike. If the Foundation Establishment cultivator I encountered was a bit more decisive, he would have launched a thunderous attack in the air and blasted me into pieces. Lu Kuan carefully thought for a while and suppressed the crazy thoughts of killing people and stealing their treasures. He took out the green boat magic tool and flew in the direction of the Yang clan. He turned into a green light and flew at full speed towards the Yang clan. After a few days, when the other low-grade disciples of the sect's Qi Refinement Pavilion discovered that the late-stage Qi Refinement cultivators in the sect seemed to have disappeared, they were all somewhat worried. They had no way to open the array in the backyard. In the end, They could only send a message to the martial uncle in the foundation establishment stage who was overseeing the Yu Yang Pavilion. This foundation establishment martial uncle was an old man with a head full of white hair. He came to the backyard and looked at the empty courtyard and rooms with a frown. Then he slowly walked into the room and used his powerful divine sense to sense it. His expression changed, and he could not help but blurt out, "Demonic aura." The disciples outside said that they only saw Chunyuro and Songren go out. Could it be that a disciple of the miraculous gate sneaked in and fought with Yu Qingfeng? That's not right. There should be sounds of fighting, but it doesn't seem like there was a big battle here. Then, the old man's expression changed. Could it be Chunyuro? She is a disciple of the miraculous gate. She sneaked into the weapon refining peak. It seems very likely. A few days have already passed. Songren is most likely dead. No, this matter must be reported to the peak master. After muttering for a while, the old man called a disciple, and a jade slip appeared in his hand. He poured his magic power into it and placed a restriction on the jade slip. He said to the disciple, "Quickly return to the sect and personally deliver this jade slip to the peak master of the Blue Sun Peak, Lu Xiao." "Yes, martial uncle." 10 days later, on the second floor of the Luo Trading Company in the Yu Yang Sex Market, a red-clothed, middle-aged man kept bowing to a fierce-looking bald man. He said, "Fellow Taoist Zhang, if you want to buy or sell materials in the future, I'll have to trouble senior brother to choose our trading company. Our Luo Trading Company will definitely give you the best price." "Yes, I understand. However, fellow Taoist Luo, this is my first time in the Yang market. I'm not very familiar with this place. Seeing that the little fellow beside you is quite clever, why don't you let him bring me around this market?" The bald man pointed to a delicate and pretty young man beside him and said. The red-clothed, middle-aged man agreed without hesitation. He turned to the young man and said, "Xian Yu, bring this honorable guest around the market. Do you hear me?" The delicate and pretty young man looked at the bald man with a strange look in his eyes. He replied, "Yes, I'll definitely bring this immortal master around the market." The red-clothed, middle-aged man sent the bald man to the door. When he saw the bald man and the young man gradually walking away, his face revealed an excited expression. "With such a big deal, the profit will definitely not be small. I'll be able to buy more pills next month." After the bald man and the delicate and pretty young man walked around the market, the muscles on the bald man's face suddenly twitched and changed into a square-faced man. Then, he changed back to his original appearance. The delicate and pretty young man was extremely excited when he saw this. He whispered, "Master, it's really you." It turned out that this bald man was Lu Kuan, who had changed his appearance. After Lu Kuan came to the Yang market, he immediately went to the Luo Trading Company. However, he had injured the Luo clan's La Xinhua, so he changed his appearance. He just happened to see his new disciple, Luo Xuanyu, by the side. After completing the transaction, he brought him out. Lu Kuan asked Luo Xuanyu, "Xianyu, how's your cultivation of the Vajra esoteric art?" Luo Xuanyu said somewhat excitedly, "Master, I should be able to break through to the 3rd level soon. Right now, I feel that my entire body's strength has increased by a lot. Yes, as long as a young cultivator wholeheartedly cultivates the Vajra esoteric art, the progress will indeed be very fast. Today, I will teach you a set of martial arts that is compatible with the Vajra esoteric art. If you practice diligently, you will have more power to protect yourself." "Yes, master." After that, Lu Kuan taught the Yuan exploding fist to this young disciple. While chatting, he also found out that La Xinhua did not look for him. It seemed that after his cultivation was crippled, Luo Xuanyu was dispensable to La Xinhua. "Xianyu, for the next few years, you should cultivate diligently. I should be in seclusion in the sect, right? During this year, did Qing Tian come to see you?" Upon hearing this, Luo Xuanyu revealed a strange expression and said, "Master, I heard that senior brother has been cultivating diligently in the sect, but what?" Luo Xuanyu continued, "Well, During this year, it was eldest senior brother who caused some trouble in the sect. Lu Kuan frowned and said, "You mean Xiao Jin? What happened to him?" "I heard from the disciples of Chuyang Peak that eldest senior brother and little gray often chased and fought on the mountain peak, causing them to suffer unspeakably. They could not beat the two of them and could only swallow their anger. Master, if you go back, you should bring eldest senior brother back to the cave residence." Lu Kuan was speechless for a while. He shook his head and continued, "Let's not talk about this for now. In the next few years, I will ask Qin Tian to come over and teach you the Vajra esoteric art after mastering it. It's getting late. You should go back first." "Yes, master." Lu Kuan thought of Xiao Jin's mischievous personality and had a headache. He walked out of the market and flew towards the Yang clan on the Azure Boat. In the Yang clan's mission hall, a disciple with a full beard was looking at a jade slip. On it were some newly issued missions. The disciple with a full beard was called Zhang Feihu. Because he was efficient in his work, he had been working in a mission hall and received a lot of spirit stone contribution points every year. In addition to him, there were dozens of chi condensation disciples in the mission hall, all of them choosing missions on the jade slip. At this time, Lu Kuan, who was wearing a red robe, walked in. His tyrannical magic power fluctuations attracted the attention of several disciples. After all, there were not many disciples in the sect who were at the peak of the chi condensation realm. "Hey, isn't this senior brother Lu? I didn't expect senior brother Lu's cultivation to improve again in a year and reach the peak of the chi condensation realm. The senior brother Lu you were talking about, is he the one who took on 3 red name missions alone a year ago? Who else could it be?" Senior brother Lu came to the mission hall now. Could it be that he completed the missions? "Are you kidding me? Those 3 red name missions were all very dangerous." Gradually, almost all the disciples in the hall turned their heads and looked at Lu Kuan with fear, admiration, and disdain. Zhang Feihu heard the hall become lively and couldn't help but look up. He just happened to see Lu Kuan walking in front of him. He was immediately stunned and said, "So it's senior brother Lu. Senior brother, are you here to hand in a mission or to accept a mission?" Lu Kuan said, "I didn't hand in the last mission. How could I accept the new one? Of course I'm here to hand in a mission today." Zhang Feihu's face was full of disbelief. He said in surprise, "Senior brother really completed a red name mission?" His voice was rough and loud, so the other disciples who were paying attention heard him. These people showed an expression of disbelief. Lu Kuan smiled and waved his hand. In the open space in front of him, a black bear, a python, and a yellowish-black stone that emitted a strange aura appeared. "Isn't that the black-winged bear? It's one of the strongest monsters in terms of strength and defense. I don't know what method senior brother Lu used, but he actually pierced its eyeball with one blow. It's really terrifying. That green and yellow python's defense is also very strong. Its 7 inches were actually beaten into a bloody mess." These red name missions have been hanging on the jade wall for many years. Each mission was worth more than 1,000 contribution points. If 3 people accepted the mission, each person could get nearly 500 contribution points. Many disciples had the idea of taking them and check the relevant books. However, the more they knew about the mission, the more they didn't dare to accept the mission. Now that they saw Lu Kuan take care of these top monsters by himself, they couldn't help but admire him. Zhang Feihu listened to the discussions of the other disciples and looked at the mission items on the ground. He said with a face full of awe, "Senior brother, you pawned a foundation establishment pill. I want to ask a foundation establishment martial uncle to appraise the mission for you. Senior brother, please come with me to the back hall." Chapter 142. After completing these 3 missions, Lu Kuan had obtained close to 4,500 contribution points. It was truly shocking. After that, he walked through the Elixir Pavilion and the Scripture Pavilion. He first went to the Scripture Pavilion and spent nearly 1,000 contribution points to copy a copy of the ancient book that Qin Yushu mentioned. The name of this ancient book was Ancient Foundation Establishment Method. Aside from this ancient book, Lu Kuan's horizons in the scripture pavilion were broadened. There were all kinds of spells, spell explanations, refining techniques, alchemy techniques, formation foundations, as well as explanations on how to improve one's cultivation. Lu Kuan even saw the exchange for a thunder palm. However, the price of a thunder palm was as high as 2,000 contribution points, which made him a little speechless. He had no use for the remaining contribution points, so he could only look at it and wait until he was done with his current matters before coming back to exchange for it. After that, Lu Kuan entered the pill pavilion in exchange for a foundation establishment pill. With this, Lu Kuan now had 2 foundation establishment pills, which he could use to improve his foundation techniques as much as possible. Strangely, Lu Kuan also exchanged for a lot of pills that could improve one's strength between the early and middle stages of qi refining. When Lu Kuan left the pill pavilion, he suddenly felt a bloodline connection from afar. His heart stirred, and he stopped in place to wait. Not long after, he saw 2 gray figures running towards him. One of the gray figures was Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin's feet flashed with light, and it landed on Lu Kuan's shoulder, squeaking happily. The other gray figure also revealed its true appearance. It was a very small, gray, short-haired cat. It looked at Xiao Jin, then looked at Lu Kuan, and growled twice at Lu Kuan. Its bright eyes revealed a bit of surprise. Lu Kuan had killed so many demonic beasts, including quite a few top-ranked demonic beasts, so it was only natural that his body was tainted with a murderous aura. This was something the other disciples could not compare to, and as a top-ranked demonic beast with extremely high aptitude, the little gray cat was the first to sense it. Xiao Jin was a little wary when he saw the little gray cat, so he squeaked a few times at it before the cat relaxed. Lu Kuan clicked his tongue in wonder as he watched. He turned to the little gray monkey on his shoulder and said, "Xiao Jin, when did you reach the level of a top-tier demonic beast?" Xiao Jin was extremely excited. He pointed at the gray kitten, then patted his chest and cried out proudly. After Lu Kuan heard this, he took a closer look at the little gray cat and discovered that this little cat was actually a top-ranked demon beast. Xiao Jin had broken through while fighting with it nonstop. In the beginning, Xiao Jin was not the opponent's opponent, but with the origin explosion steps, he was able to coexist peacefully. Later on, Xiao Jin took out 2 top-rank long-staff artifacts and was barely able to fight with it. Just as Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin were conversing, a man and woman walked over not far away. The man had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and an extraordinary heroic spirit. The woman was beautiful and quiet. They were Lu Kuan's disciples, Zhao Qingtian and Sher Chao. Zhao Qingtian looked at Lu Kuan with a happy expression and said, "Master, you're finally back. Your disciple missed you to death." Sher Chao curled her lips and said, "I say, Master, you left us alone after entering the sect. You're too irresponsible. Even the Vajra arts were taught by my brother." Lu Kuan looked at Sher Chao, who he had not seen for 6 years, and felt very emotional. At this time, Sher Chao had already reached the peak of the 10th layer of the qi refining realm. Her cultivation speed could be said to be heaven-defying. It's Master's fault. However, Master really didn't have much time to prepare for breaking through to the foundation establishment realm. I will definitely compensate you. Zhao Qingtian's eyes lit up. He knew of his master's strength. If he said that he would compensate them, it would definitely be something extremely good. He hurriedly asked, "Master, when will you compensate us?" Looking at the impatient Zhao Qingtian, Lu Kuan smiled and said, "1 magic tool per person. However, I'll need to spend a few days to refine them." When Sher Chao heard this, she felt that her master would not lie to her. She showed a concerned expression and asked, "Master, have you completed the previous missions?" Lu Kuan nodded and said, "These missions are not difficult for me. Let's talk as we walk. What's the progress of your Vajra arts?" Zhao Qingtian was extremely proud and said with some smugness, "Master, my Vajra art has already reached the 7th layer. After another year of cultivation, I will be able to reach the great perfection realm. At the same time, my basic cultivation technique has also reached the peak of the 9th layer." Sher Chao said disdainfully, What's there to be proud of? My Vajra Arts has also reached the 7th layer, and my basic cultivation technique has reached the peak of the 10th layer. Lu Kuan was speechless when he heard this. These two disciples were actually cultivating body tempering techniques and basic cultivation techniques at the same time, and their progress was so fast. He coughed lightly and said, "Not bad. Let's go to my cave later. I will teach you the cultivation techniques after the Vajra arts have reached the great perfection realm, the primordial wood body tempering art, and the primordial fire body tempering art." Soon, they arrived outside Lu Kuan's cave. Zhao Qingtian looked at the cave and said, "Master, your cave hasn't changed. With your cultivation, you can definitely live in the highest place." Only now did Lu Kuan remember what Qin Yushu had said about the Immortal's Cave that year. He nodded and said, "In 2 days, I will go and apply to Martial Uncle Nya." "Master, Martial Uncle Nya failed to break through to the core formation realm a year ago and died. The current peak master of the crafting peak is his disciple, Martial Uncle Qin." Lu Kuan was shocked when he heard this and asked, "What did you say? When did this happen?" Zhao Qingtian remembered that his master had been outside for a year, so he said, "Master, let's go in and talk." Then, the 3 people and 2 demonic beasts all entered Lu Kuan's cave. After spending an entire day, Lu Kuan finally passed the primordial fire body tempering art and the primordial wood body tempering art to them. He specially instructed them to choose one to cultivate after entering the foundation establishment realm. He also asked Zhao Qingtian to pay more attention to Luo Xuanyu's progress. After Luo Xuanyu reached the great perfection realm of the Vajra arts, he would pass this cultivation technique to him. Then, Lu Kuan specially asked about Xiao Jin. It turned out that with Xiao Jin as a playmate, the gray kitten didn't go to the high-level cultivators to cause trouble. It played with Xiao Jin and at most teased some Qi refinement realm disciples, which saved Zhu Xiaofeng a lot of trouble. As for Xiao Jin's origin, Gu Tianjian and Qin Yushu from the Crafting Peak had explained it to Chaoyang Peak. Everyone accepted its existence. Lu Kuan thought for a while and let Xiao Jin continue to follow Zhao Qingtian and the others. After they left, Lu Kuan sat quietly in the cave with a puzzled expression and muttered to himself, "Martial Uncle Nya has the spirit-controlling inner armor, so he should have a lot of confidence. How could this be? Since Martial Uncle Qin has succeeded in the foundation establishment realm, I'll ask him when I meet him." Then he stopped thinking about this matter and took out the ancient foundation establishment technique and read it carefully. Although Lu Kuan had already arranged the follow-up mission, this was what he needed most at the moment. Lu Kuan muttered, "Relying on a strong divine sense and pure magic power, forcibly condense the liquid and advance to the foundation establishment realm." It turns out that the earliest cultivators didn't have the foundation establishment pill, so the probability of reaching the foundation establishment realm was shockingly low. However, as long as they succeeded in reaching the foundation establishment realm, they would use this method to reach the foundation establishment realm. If that's the case, then how strong were the earliest cultivators? I'm afraid that an early-stage foundation establishment realm cultivator would be comparable to a mid-stage foundation establishment realm cultivator. After a long time, some amazing cultivators refined the miraculous foundation establishment pill, which greatly increased the probability of reaching the foundation establishment realm. After so many years of development, almost no one used the ancient method to reach the foundation establishment realm. It's also fortunate that the Yang clan was able to leave such an ancient method behind. It's of great help to me, especially this method of refining magic power. It coincides with my previous conjecture. Lu Kuan finished reading the book and kept muttering to himself. His expression was incomparably excited. The body refinement technique he created was somewhat similar to the immortal cultivation technique created by the early cultivators. The more ancient the method, the more inspiration it gave him. After reading it, Lu Kuan had a clearer idea of what he needed to do in the future. The power of my divine sense must at least reach the level of an early-stage foundation establishment realm cultivator. As for magic power, the magic power of my muscles is quite pure. According to the description of this method, the purity should be increased by another 50 to 60%. Lu Kuan looked at the materials in his storage bag and said to himself, "What I need to do now is to refine the spirit-controlling inner armor." My luck is not bad. I bought enough silver, ore, and other materials from the Luo clan trading company. I can immediately begin refining the spirit-controlling inner armor. Then, with the 2 foundation establishment pills, I can raise my basic cultivation technique to the late-stage Qi refinement realm. Together with the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly, I'll see if the power of my divine sense meets the requirements. Lu Kuan lowered his head and pondered for a moment before leaving the cave abode. He walked to the first floor. Behind this floor's cultivation pavilion, there was an earth fire hall. Most of the Qi refinement realm disciples would refine artifacts here. After paying a piece of mid-grade spirit stone, Lu Kuan chose the refining room with the best facilities. He opened the room's restriction and looked at the earth fire furnace in the middle of the room. Lu Kuan threw out all the materials he needed. Following that, he took out Nie Wufeng's blueprint and carefully checked it. I prepared a little more materials. I'll use the extra for the other parts. Following that, Lu Kuan stayed in the refinement room and began to refine the spirit-controlling dermic artifact. At the same time, on the 4th floor of Weapon Refining Peak, in Nie Wufeng's cave abode, Qin Yushu was sitting cross-legged. His body's dermic powers were surging and pure, much stronger than the average early-stage foundation establishment realm cultivator. Suddenly, a voice transmission talisman floated in. Qin Yushu opened his eyes. The light in his eyes was extremely clear. Immortal cultivators with high cultivation levels would discover that his divine sense was abnormally powerful. It was completely comparable to a mid-stage foundation establishment realm cultivator. Qin Yushu opened the voice transmission talisman, and after listening for a while, he chuckled and muttered to himself, "Lu Shizhi is back. I heard from Brother Gu that his cultivation technique was completely self-created. I never expected him to have cultivated to the great perfection of Qi refinement realm. Now that he's at the Earth Fire Hall, he should be refining a spirit-controlling dermic artifact. By the way, Senior Brother Zhu asked me to keep an eye on Lu Kuan. I have to inform him." After muttering to himself, Qin Yushu took out a voice transmission talisman and muttered a few words before throwing it out. Following that, he smacked his head and said, "Lu Shizhi has reached the great perfection realm. It's time to change his cave abode." Chapter 143. On this day, on the 4th floor of Blue Sun Peak, a young Qi refinement disciple was holding a jade slip with a nervous expression. In front of him stood a middle-aged man with a rather steady appearance. The young disciple stammered, "Uncle Master Luo, this is an emergency from Uncle Master Yin. It needs to be checked by the Peak Master." This seemingly steady man was second only to the patriarch of the Luo clan. He was in the late stage of foundation establishment, and his cave abode was on the 4th floor of Blue Sun Peak. His name was Luo Tianhan. Luo Tianhan said expressionlessly, "Peak Master Lu Shidi is in seclusion to break through in his cave abode. Don't approach him. Give me the jade slip, and I'll pass it to him." "But Uncle Master Luo, Uncle Master Yin told me to hand it to the Peak Master personally," the young disciple said hesitantly. Luo Tianhan snorted and exuded a powerful spiritual pressure. "The Peak Master is breaking through to the late stage of foundation establishment. If you delay, you won't be able to pay for it, even if you have 10 lives." The young disciple was so frightened by the spiritual pressure of the late stage of foundation establishment that he broke out in a cold sweat. He said, "I was reckless. I'll give this jade slip to you, Uncle Master Luo." "Okay, you can go now." Luo Tianhan took the jade slip and said, "Yes, Uncle Master." Luo Tianhan said again, "Wait, you should know what to say when you return to Lingming Market, right?" "I know. I've already handed the jade slip to Uncle Master Lu personally. Okay, you can go now. Luo Tianhan's eyes flashed as he watched the disciple leave the peak. He took the jade slip and walked back. He glanced at Lu Zhao's cave abode in the distance and snorted coldly before opening the jade slip. There's even a restriction. But what can an early-stage foundation establishment restriction do? As he spoke, Luo Tianhan's hand shone brightly and the restriction in the jade slip was broken. Then, Luo Tianhan probed with his divine sense. His expression changed as he changed his direction and flew towards the peak of Blue Sun Peak. Soon, he entered a huge cave abode where the patriarch of the Luo clan resided. Inside the cave abode, a man with an aquiline nose held a jade slip in his hand and paced back and forth. His expression kept changing as he muttered, "The disciples of the miraculous gate have already snuck into the crafting peak, killed 2 disciples, and disappeared." Luo Tianhan's expression was somewhat uneasy as he said, "Yes, uncle. This is news from Lingming Market Square. I originally wanted to give it to Lu Xiao, but I stopped it." The hook-nosed man was the patriarch of the Luo clan, Luo Yuechi. He said, "You've done well. Get rid of the disciple who sent the message. Is the one surnamed Yin in the Lingming market?" "Yes, uncle." Luo Yuechi had a ruthless look on his face as he said, "With your late-stage cultivation, it won't be a problem to deal with him. Take care of him." Luo Tianhan said with some hesitation, "Uncle, a foundation establishment cultivator is not a low-level disciple to the sect. Will there be a problem?" Luo Yuechi said indifferently, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Just do as I say." "Yes." In the Earth Fire Hall on the 2nd level of the crafting peak, Lu Kuan was wearing only a pair of shorts as he sat cross-legged. His arms, body, and lower calves were wrapped in silvery white Dharma artifacts. Lu Kuan was sensing his dantian with his eyes closed. If other cultivators were to see this, they would realize that his dantian was only at the 1st level of qi refinement. Not bad. This spirit-controlling inner armor is very effective. With the help of my spiritual sense, I can perfectly absorb the medicinal essence of pills and increase my cultivation. It had been 5 days since he began refining. Other than refining the spirit-controlling inner armor, Lu Kuan also used the remaining materials to refine a small portion of the spirit-controlling greaves. Following that, Lu Kuan put on a Dharma robe and opened a restriction outside the door. The moment he went out, he saw a disciple walking towards him. The disciple said, "Senior Brother Lu, I'm a disciple sent by Martial Uncle Qin. He wants you to make a trip to the 4th level." Lu Kuan was puzzled as to why Qin Yushu was looking for him. However, considering his character, he nodded and said, "All right, I'll head over now." Following that, Lu Kuan and the disciple walked to a pavilion on the 4th level of the crafting peak. It was the sunset pavilion that the new disciples went to when they first arrived. When they were downstairs, the disciple had already excused himself, saying that Qin Yushu was waiting for Lu Kuan upstairs. Lu Kuan walked up to the 2nd floor and saw 2 people standing side by side. One of them was gentle and elegant, dressed like a scholar. The other had white hair and a kind face. He knew both of them. They were Zhu Siming and Qin Yushu. When Lu Kuan saw the 2 of them, he respectfully said, "Greetings, Martial Uncle Zhu, Martial Uncle Qin." Feeling Qin Yushu's magical power that was comparable to the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, Lu Kuan said, "Congratulations, Martial Uncle Qin, for successfully condensing the liquid and successfully establishing your foundation." Qin Yushu smiled and said, "Lu Shizhi, I'm also quite lucky. Martial Nephew is now at the peak of the Qi refining realm. I'm sure he'll soon advance to the Foundation Establishment realm." Lu Kuan sighed and said, "Martial Uncle should know that my cultivation method was created by me. It's extremely difficult to break through this realm. If it weren't for Martial Uncle Qin's advice last time, I wouldn't have had the chance to look up the ancient Foundation Establishment technique." Qin Yushu showed an expression of realization and said, "No wonder Martial Brother asked me about the liquid condensation. It was for the sake of breaking through your cultivation method. Zhu Siming on the side carefully looked at Lu Kuan a few times and suddenly said, Lu Shizhi, a few years ago, I observed that you had two types of magical power. Why is it that only the magical power of your muscles has reached the peak of the qi refining realm, but the magical power in your dantian is weak to the first level of the qi refining realm? Lu Kuan showed a somewhat frightened expression and said, When I was carrying out a mission in the Spirit Demon Valley, I encountered a strange yellow, demonic fog. Although my consciousness wasn't injured, the magical power in my dantian was completely crippled. This level of magical power was recultivated after I experimented with the spirit-controlling inner armor. Zhu Siming and Qin Yushu looked at each other and were somewhat surprised. They didn't seem to have heard that demonic fog could cripple one's cultivation method. However, the two of them didn't ask anything. Lu Kuan looked at Qin Yushu and asked, Martial Uncle Qin, why did you call me here? At this time, Zhu Siming opened his mouth and said, Lu Kuan, actually the person who wants to see Martial Nephew this time is me. Lu Kuan showed a puzzled expression and looked at this old man. What orders does Martial Uncle Zhu have? Zhu Siming didn't answer and said, Lu Shizhi, a few years ago, when Martial Brother Nye and I found you, we felt that your consciousness was strong because we saw that your cultivation was only at the fourth level of the qi refining realm. But at this time, your cultivation method is at the great circle of the qi refining realm, but your consciousness cultivation is much weaker. It can be seen that there are some flaws in your cultivation method. Lu Kuan nodded and said, Martial Uncle Zhu, you're right. This technique of mine has a very limited effect on the growth of my spiritual sense. Before Martial Nephew started cultivating, he accidentally stimulated the power of his spiritual sense. So his spiritual sense had some foundation. Combined with the spiritual sense that he once cultivated to the middle stage of the aura refining realm, his current spiritual sense was formed. When Zhu Siming heard this, his old face didn't show any surprise. He said, The foundation of your body refining technique has a huge effect on stimulating the power of your consciousness. When you're greatly stimulated, it is very easy to stimulate your consciousness. The reason I'm looking for you this time is related to the consciousness part of your cultivation method. Lu Kuan frowned and said, Martial Uncle, my cultivation method doesn't have any cultivation method for the consciousness. Zhu Siming shook his head and said, The training of muscles and nerves in your cultivation method has a positive effect on the divine sense. It can be said that it is part of the divine sense. This has a great effect on the spirit sensing technique. I want you to help me improve the spirit sensing technique. Martial Uncle Zhu, I've already cultivated the spirit sensing technique. It only strengthens my muscles and nerves. It doesn't have any effect on the consciousness. Zhu Siming said indifferently, The second half of the spirit sensing technique can strengthen the consciousness. Otherwise, how could Junior Martial Brother Qin's consciousness be comparable to that of the Foundation Establishment realm when he was at the great circle of the qi refining realm? Although my consciousness is innately strong, without this cultivation method to strengthen it, I wouldn't have been able to reach the early stage of the core formation realm. I've asked Martial Uncle Linghu and discussed it with Junior Martial Brother Gu and Junior Martial Brother Qin. As long as you help us strengthen the second half of the spirit sensing technique with your body refining technique, we will pass this cultivation method to you. After Lu Kuan heard this, he was pleasantly surprised. He had never thought that there would be such a cultivation method to strengthen the consciousness. If he wanted to break through, the strength of his consciousness was the most important factor. Then he frowned and said, But Martial Uncle Zhu, I haven't cultivated the second half of the spirit sensing technique. It's a bit impossible for me to strengthen it. Zhu Siming laughed loudly and said, Don't worry. It can be said that I understand this spirit sensing technique the most. However, what I lack is the understanding of the muscles and nerves. This just happens to be the area you're the most proficient in. Lu Kuan asked again, Martial Uncle Zhu, how long will it take? Forgive me for not keeping it from you, but this cultivation method can only allow you to reach the foundation establishment realm before the age of 50. I'm already 42 this year, so I only have 8 years left. Zhu Siming was a bit surprised. He didn't expect Lu Kuan's cultivation method to be so strange. He said, I've already studied the combination of the second half of the spirit sensing technique and the nerves for a year. Therefore, the time it takes to complete depends on your understanding of the muscles and nerves. The shortest is a month, and the longest is half a year. If you can't perfect it, it can only mean that this path won't work. Lu Kuan estimated his future arrangements in his mind. He nodded and said, No problem. I will do my best to help Martial Uncle Zhu. Lu Kuan then said to Qin Yushu, Martial Uncle Qin, I want to ask Martial Uncle for a favor. Qin Yushu asked, What favor? Martial Nephew, tell me. Because of the cultivation method, I want to refine a full-body, spirit-controlling, immortal instrument. I'm still lacking a lot of materials. I don't know if Martial Uncle Qin can help me see if there are any in the sex storehouse. Martial Nephew will buy them with spirit stones. It's a small matter. Tell me the materials, and I'll help you check. Qin Yushu thought of something in the blink of an eye. He said to Lu Kuan, Martial Nephew, I've already arranged for your immortal's cave to be at the highest point on the second floor. Your strength can be seen from the tasks you completed. No other disciples have any objections. Lu Kuan's face lit up with joy. He bowed and said, Thank you, Martial Uncle Qin. Then Lu Kuan told Qin Yushu the materials he needed and the quantity. After Lu Kuan and Qin Yushu finished talking, Zhu Siming said, Since you're fine, Lu Kuan, follow me. Yes, Martial Uncle Zhu. Chapter 144. On the fourth floor of Jade Yang Peak, there were 2 women sitting in a pavilion. One of them had short blue and black hair, and her eyes were exceptionally bright. The other was graceful and beautiful. They were the peak master of Jade Yang Peak, Du Ruoqiao, and the Luo clan's Luo Tianhua. Du Ruoqiao said, Senior Sister Luo, Shui and Wan have both reached the late stage of qi refining, especially Wan. She has reached the 12th layer of qi refining. I think she can take the foundation establishment pill. She frowned and continued, but Sher Chao's aptitude is excellent. She's only at the 10th layer of qi refining. I feel that her cultivation speed is a bit slow. Logically speaking, an ice spirit root cultivator who cultivates the water spirit should be at least at the 11th layer of qi refining. Luo Tianhua smiled and said, You've been troubled by this problem for many years. Why are you still thinking about it now? I told you long ago that Wan-Er's cultivation speed is much faster with her spiritual body. I saw Shui 2 days ago. She's already at the peak of the 10th layer and can break through at any time. Don't worry, it won't be long before our Jade Yang Peak has 2 more foundation establishment female cultivators. Du Ruoqiao blinked and said, But I feel that something is wrong. Luo Tianhua shook her head. Her junior sister was sometimes very shrewd. Sometimes she could be troubled by a problem for a long time. She said, Your feeling must be in terms of strength. Shui has reached the late stage of qi refining and can use most spells. She can easily defeat late-stage cultivators without using magic tools. Du Ruoqiao clapped her hands and said, Yes, what I feel is strength. See, I'm right. Du Ruoqiao quickly said, Senior Sister Luo, no, what I feel is not Shui-Er's strength, but Wan-Er's. Luo Tianhua was puzzled. Wan-Er, Du Ruoqiao continued. Every time I see Wan-Er, I feel that she's very mature and has a very strong battle awareness. Shui is definitely not her match. Luo Tianhua heard this and smiled. Junior sister, your feeling is really strange, but it might be related to their childhood experiences. The more Du Ruoqiao thought, the more her head hurt. Forget it, let's not think about it. Then, she suddenly thought of something and asked, Senior Sister Luo, isn't your Luo family's ancestral worship ceremony about to start? Why are you still in the sect? After hearing this, Luo Tianhua said, 2 days ago, senior brother Luo Tianhan, sent us a message saying that the time of the ancestral worship has been slightly adjusted. It will be held in about a month. With my speed, it'll only take me 10 days to reach Luo Yun Valley. There's still time. Du Ruoqiao's interest was immediately piqued, and she asked, "Senior sister, tell me what your family does when you worship your ancestors." Luo Tianyue said, "The ancestral worship ceremony is a ceremony where all the disciples in the clan who are above the middle stage of the aura, refining realm pray to the heavens for the prosperity of our Luo clan for generations to come. Ever since eldest uncle formed his gold core, it's been held every once in a while. In the end, my uncle will personally meet with the new disciples to understand their situation in the ancestral hall and guide them to complete the Luo family's blood oath." Du Ruoqiao asked curiously, "What blood oath?" "I only know about the spiritual sense oath." Luo Tianyue explained, "Junior sister, you probably haven't heard about this before. I only learned about it when I made the blood oath back then. It said that there are two kinds of blood oaths. One of them requires the same bloodline to perform. Our Luo clan uses this kind of blood oath. Through the power of our bloodline, we make an oath that restricts everyone. Our oath is that the disciples of the Luo clan will never kill each other. Don't underestimate this oath. The bigger the clan, the more infighting there will be. With this blood oath, we can develop the Luo clan trading company and make the Luo clan more prosperous." Du Ruoqiao sighed. "Indeed, the Luo clan's strength has changed a lot in the past 100 years. But senior sister, what's the other blood oath you mentioned?" Luo Tianyue's beautiful face revealed a look of reminiscence, and she said, "The other one has been lost. It's said that it allows people with different bloodlines to make a joint oath. The ancient cultivation sects all use this kind of blood oath." Du Ruoqiao was puzzled. "Then why don't the sects nowadays use this? I haven't even heard of it." Luo Tianyue replied, "Because this kind of blood oath doesn't have the same bloodline, a medium must be found. This medium must be a heavenly treasure, a rare item in the world. It may be a top-grade refining material, a psychic beast, or a top-grade medicinal herb. Junior sister, think about it. These psychic treasures are all things that nascent soul cultivators desire. After they become the medium of the blood oath, they can only be placed in one place. If someone steals and refines it, the blood oath will lose its effect. The risk is too great." Du Ruoqiao said, "I see. Where is Luo Yun Valley?" "Senior sister, it takes so long to get there. Won't the Qi condensation disciples take even longer?" "I didn't expect that as a foundation establishment cultivator of the Yang clan. I'm not even familiar with Lu province. I don't even know about such a place." Luo Tianyue covered her mouth and chuckled. "It's normal that junior sister hasn't heard of Luo Yun Valley. The Luo clan was originally a loose cultivator near Jiyu City, the capital of Lu province. Even eldest uncle lived in this mortal city when he was very young. As for Luo Yun Valley, it's just an ordinary valley near Jiyu City." Later on, after our clan developed, we placed some formations there to prevent mortals from disturbing us. Speaking of which, our Luo clan's history can't be compared to the clans of other provinces. However, with eldest uncle's leadership, we'll definitely develop even better." Du Ruoqiao nodded and said, "Yes. For example, senior sister Luo and senior brother Luo Tianhan of the Blue Sun Peak are both in the late stage of foundation establishment. They have the possibility of forming their gold core." Then, she thought about how her cultivation had stagnated for a long time. Her expression was a bit gloomy as she said, "My cultivation is probably stuck at the middle stage of foundation establishment." Luo Tianyue patted Du Ruoqiao's hand and said, "Junior sister, if you focus on cultivating and don't think about these messy things, you'll be able to reach the late stage of foundation establishment." Du Ruoqiao nodded as if she was comforted by Luo Tianyue's words. She said, "Since senior sister isn't cultivating today, why don't you tell junior sister more about the other provinces? Sometimes my knowledge isn't as good as some Qi condensation disciples." "Okay, senior sister will tell you about it today." in Yang Market, the Luo clan trading company had already closed their doors. Most of the people in Yang Market knew that the Luo clan's ancestral worship ceremony would take them to a faraway place. Disciples who had just advanced to the middle stage of qi condensation would need their elders' flying magic tools to carry them. There were also many clansmen below the middle stage of qi condensation in the Luo clan. They were all non-direct descendants of the Luo clan. Apart from those with low cultivation, there were also many mortals without spirit roots. After the Luo clan trading company temporarily closed down, these people stayed in the market. Some went to other shops to work as temporary workers to earn some spirit stones. Some stayed at the entrance of the Demon Valley to become tour guides, hoping to entertain new cultivators and be rewarded with spirit stones. On this day, two men were chatting at the entrance of Yang Market. One of them was about 20 years old and looked very handsome. It was Luo Xuanyu. The other man was about 30 years old. He wore a blue robe and looked like he was only at the third layer of qi condensation. If Lu Kuan was here, he would recognize that this man was the man called Huang Yunfei, who showed them around Yang Market a few years ago. It turned out that when the Luo clan trading company closed down, Luo Xuanyu came to the entrance to be a tour guide. He had known this Huang Yunfei since he was very young. At that time, the Luo clan would give Huang Yunfei a low-grade spirit stone every month. This allowed him to bring more guests to the Luo clan trading company. Luo Xuanyu saw the cultivators coming and going and said, "Uncle Huang, business hasn't been good recently." Huang Yunfei sighed and said, "Yes, it's getting harder and harder to serve cultivators these days." Luo Xuanyu used his divine sense to sense Huang Yunfei's cultivation. He frowned and said, "Uncle, your cultivation still hasn't changed? This is too strange. Even if you have 5 spirit roots, you can still reach the middle stage of qi condensation." Huang Yunfei laughed at himself and said, "I've already given up. Instead of wasting spirit stones on me, it's better to leave them for my son." Luo Xuanyu knew that this Uncle Huang of his had spent a lot of effort to break through the third layer of qi condensation and enter the middle stage of qi condensation. He couldn't bear to let him give up and said, "Little Yun is only 8 years old. There's still plenty of time for him to cultivate. Uncle Huang, you could try again." Huang Yunfei shook his head and said, "In 4 years, the Yang clan will be recruiting disciples again. Their recruitment policy has changed. I have to let little Yun reach a higher cultivation level by the time he's 12. Only then can he enter the Yang clan. In addition, little Yun's spirit roots are exactly the same as mine. With 4 spirit roots, I'm afraid that he won't be able to reach the middle stage of qi condensation like me. If that's the case, then what's the difference between him and a mortal for the rest of his life? The spirit stones I've saved up right now are all used to buy qi condensing pills and qi gathering elixirs so that he can reach the middle stage of qi condensation as soon as possible. I only started cultivating the foundation techniques at the age of 18. Maybe it's because I started cultivating late that I couldn't break through." Luo Xuanyu felt Huang Yunfei's care for little Yun and couldn't help but think of his father. His eyes dimmed a bit. Seeing this, Huang Yunfei could only pat him on the shoulder. He knew a bit about Luo Xuanyu's situation. His father died, and his cultivation was crippled. He was unable to continue cultivating the foundation techniques. Now, all he had was the spiritual sense of a middle-stage qi condensation cultivator without the slightest trace of magic power. Just like him, he was a mortal. At this moment, Luo Xuanyu suddenly saw a few immortal cultivators coming in. With his spiritual sense, he could just barely sense that they were at the late stage of qi condensation. He said to Huang Yunfei, "Uncle Huang, these people's cultivation levels are very high. Let's hurry up before others take him away." Chapter 145. A month later, near the capital of Lu Province, Jiayu City, there was a valley with a radius of several miles. Many cultivators could be vaguely seen inside the valley. They were gathered together and looked very lively. In the sky above the cloud-filled valley, there were two cultivators standing in the air. They were both core formation cultivators. One of them was a woman in a long black dress. Her face was covered with a black veil, revealing her cold eyes. The cold wind whistled in the air, outlining her graceful figure. The other man wore a yellow robe and had an aquiline nose. He was the core formation ancestor of the Luo family, Luo Yuechi. Luo Yuechi looked at the girl beside him and said, "Fairy Ling, you are a core formation cultivator of the demon spirit sect. If the Yuyang sect finds out that you came to find me during the Luo clan ceremony, it would be troublesome." So this was Shun Mingyao's master, the famous Fairy Ling who cultivated the art of unruffled beauty. Fairy Ling sneered and said, "Luo Yuechi, you arranged the Luo family's ancestral worship ceremony in a place with insufficient spiritual energy. Didn't you want the Yang clan to not find out? Besides, the formation here is not weak. Normal cultivators can't spy on this place. Fairy Ling, you came here directly. Do you have something important to tell me?" Fairy Ling said with an expressionless face, "Your nephew killed the fellow disciples of the Yu Yang sect in the Lingming market. I saw with my own eyes. Could it be that this person has discovered the secret of your Luo clan?" Luo Yuechi didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked, "Fairy Ling, why did you go to Lingming market? Did an important disciple go missing? Or were you just passing by?" Fairy Ling heard this, and her eyes flashed coldly. She said coldly, "Luo Yuechi, do you know something? If you have something to say, just say it. Don't beat around the bush." Luo Yuechi's hand flashed, and a jade slip appeared. He handed it over and said, "Fairy Ling, you'll know once you see it." Fairy Ling grabbed it and scanned it with her spiritual sense. Her face darkened. She looked at the calm Luo Yuechi and said, "I didn't expect my miraculous gate disciple to be so reckless and directly kill two low-level disciples of your sect. It seems my sect disciple fell into fellow Luo's hands." Luo Yuechi's face changed. "Who said this disciple is in my hands? This disciple hasn't returned to the miraculous gate yet." Fairy Ling carefully observed Luo Yuechi's expression, and a puzzled look appeared on her face. Luo Yuechi saw her expression and said, "Fairy Ling, you don't believe me? We've known each other for more than 200 years. I won't deceive you over such a trivial matter." Fairy Ling nodded and said, "I don't think you would fall out with us at this juncture. This means that this disciple has most likely died." Luo Yuechi frowned. "When did this disciple infiltrate the Yang clan?" "Seeing you so nervous, it must be a great secret." Fairy Ling looked into the distance. Her eyes flashed with a strange light. "It's nothing. This disciple infiltrated the Yang clan's crafting peak and investigated Niao Wufeng's movements. He regularly reported to me." Luo Yuechi showed a strange smile. "I thought Fairy Ling's art of beauty, forgetting emotion, was heartless. I didn't expect you to still be obsessed with Niao Wufeng." Fairy Ling's expression was calm as she said, "Back then, I received accurate information from you and successfully made a move against Niao Wufeng. He must hate me to the bone. If he were to reach the core formation realm, I would definitely not be his opponent. How could I not be on guard? Back then, we each took what we needed. Don't worry. I received news that Niao Wufeng is dead. Since Niao Wufeng is dead, that disciple's mission can be said to have been completed. He must have been too greedy and made a mistake on the way." Luo Yuechi showed some lingering fear. "It's fine that this disciple died. But if the other Yang clan disciples knew that a miraculous gate disciple had infiltrated the Yang clan for so many years, they would definitely be on guard. This would be very disadvantageous for us." Fairy Ling sneered. "It doesn't matter even if they find out. I came to see you this time to tell you that in a few years, the rest of our sects will join forces to deal with the Shangqing sect and destroy it. When the time comes, the Yang clan will have no choice but to join forces with us." Luo Yuechi was shocked. "What? You want to deal with the Shangqing sect? You must know that the Shangqing sect has a late-stage nascent soul cultivator overseeing it. How are you going to fight against them?" Fairy Ling smiled mysteriously. "We have our own ways to deal with this. The nascent soul seniors of our sects will visit the Yang clan together in a few days and have the Yang clan join forces with us to deal with the Shangqing sect. Although the Yang clan doesn't have many core formation cultivators, each of them is a powerful cultivator. When the battle begins, the rest of our sects will have an easier time. When the time comes, Fairy Ling used a spiritual sense sound transmission technique. After hearing this, Luo Yueqi's expression changed. Just as he was about to speak, a sound transmission talisman flew to him. "Uncle, the time has come. The ancestral worship ceremony is about to begin." Fairy Ling heard this and said, "When we need to take action later, I will inform fellow Taoist Luo." After saying this, Fairy Ling turned into a black light and shot into the distance. None of the disciples below saw her. Luo Yueqi looked at the distant Fairy Ling and flew down with an unsightly expression. On the fourth floor of the Yang clan's tool refining peak, in an antique hall that looked like the inner residence of an aristocratic family, a benevolent-looking old man sat in the main seat. He looked up to the sky and laughed. His aura was like a rainbow as a huge spiritual sense circled around his body. Not far from him, two men and a woman were sitting cross-legged. Among them, a young man and woman who looked alike were hiding behind a burly figure. Their faces were pale, as if they were being oppressed by the old man. The burly man in front of them had golden eyes. His magic power at the great circle of qi refining was constantly rolling. His whole body was covered in a red halo, and sweat gradually flowed out of his forehead. These three people were Lu Kuan and the Zhao siblings. Not long after, the power of the old man's spiritual sense suddenly increased to the peak. Then, there was a burst of light. Lu Kuan and the others felt a huge burst of spiritual sense and magic power erupting outwards. The Zhao siblings directly blacked out and fainted. Lu Kuan's golden eyes dimmed. He was a little dizzy from the spiritual sense of this core formation stage. If he hadn't used the concealing spiritual root's divine ability in time to hide his spiritual sense, he would have fainted as well. Not long after, Martial Uncle Zhu Siming withdrew his spiritual sense and magic power. Lu Kuan looked forward and saw that he was hale and hearty. His eyes faintly shot out light, and he was in high spirits. He said in surprise, "Martial Uncle Zhu, you broke through?" Zhu Siming nodded and said, "Lu Shizhi, your idea is very thorough. With this, the last difficulty has been solved. After using it just now, my spiritual sense has been improved. At the same time, my magic power has reached the great circle of foundation establishment." Lu Kuan said modestly, "If Martial Uncle Zhu's spiritual sense wasn't strong enough to observe the Zhao sibling situation, we wouldn't have been able to perfect the introductory technique." It turned out that after Zhu Siming and Lu Kuan studied this spirit sensing technique together, he discovered that Lu Kuan had a very deep understanding of muscles and nerves. They were able to completely improve the spirit sensing technique in a very short time. However, when he tried to cultivate it, he discovered that Zhu Siming was already old. Lu Kuan could directly cultivate the perfected technique, but he couldn't. This improved spirit sensing technique lacked an introductory technique. In the end, Lu Kuan had an idea and called the Zhao siblings over. Their Vajra esoterica cultivation was at the 7th layer. Their muscles and nerves were much weaker than Lu Kuan's, but they weren't far from Zhu Siming's, who cultivated the spirit sensing technique. He let the Zhao siblings cultivate the first half of the spirit sensing technique, while Zhu Siming used his powerful spiritual sense to observe from the side. After verifying it, he finally understood the key to the introductory technique. After the old man thought it through, he immediately began to cultivate. With his understanding of the soul sensing technique, he was able to learn a new soul sensing technique in an instant. Under the stimulation, his divine sense took a step forward, and even his cultivation reached the pseudo-core stage. Zhu Siming saw that Lu Kuan was looking at the Zhao siblings with a worried expression. So he said, "Lu Shizhi, your two little disciples suffered a bit of a spiritual shock. They'll be fine after sleeping for a while. Don't worry. Lu Kuan nodded and said, actually, this is their lucky chance. They were able to cultivate the first half of the spirit sensing technique. The first half of the spirit sensing technique is nothing. However, Lu Kuan, the second half of the spirit sensing technique can only be taught to others with the permission of the core formation martial uncle of the weapon refining peak. Swear a spiritual sense oath, and I will teach you the second half of the newly perfected spirit sensing technique. Lu Kuan nodded and solemnly swore a spiritual sense oath. Zhu Siming began to teach the perfected technique to Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan participated in the perfecting of the technique. It only took him 2 hours to memorize the entire technique. Zhu Siming nodded and suddenly said, Lu Kuan, when you looked up the ancient foundation establishment technique, you referred to the liquid condensation technique, right? Yes, the foundation establishment pill has no effect on Marshall Nephew's body refining technique. Only this ancient technique is of great use to me. Zhu Siming frowned and said, Lu Shizhi, in fact, with the spirit-controlling inner armor, you can completely rely on the power of medicinal pills to cultivate the basic technique. With the innate talent of your mutated spiritual roots, foundation establishment won't be a problem. Lu Kuan smiled and said, Martial uncle, many years ago, I was still a mortal who was forced into a desperate situation by few wolves. At that time, my wish was to cultivate my physical body to the pinnacle of a martial artist. When I cultivated to the level of a super martial artist, I discovered the existence of the immortal cultivators, which were far beyond the mortal realm. It was as if a vast door had opened before my eyes. By chance, I cultivated the magical power of the physical body. After seeing the demonic beasts, I constantly questioned myself. If the demonic beast can cultivate a powerful physical body, as a human, why can't I cultivate an incomparably powerful physical body? From the beginning to the end, my pursuit has never changed. Using the body refining technique to build my foundation is only the first obstacle in front of me. If I can't even pass this, how can I be considered a true body refining immortal cultivator? As he spoke, Lu Kuan's face exploded with a different kind of expression, filled with lofty aspirations. Seeing Lu Kuan full of lofty aspirations, Zhu Siming laughed and said, Good, since you have made up your mind, then give it a try. Then Lu Kuan bid farewell to Zhu Siming and left the cave with the Zhao siblings. Chapter 146. Zhao Qingtian looked at the cave that was much bigger than Lu Kuan's and said excitedly, Master, your cave is full of spirit qi, much better than ours. Martial Uncle Qin is much better than Zhu Xiaofeng from the Morning Sun Peak. This was the first time Lu Kuan came to the cave that was known as the best on the second floor of the weapon refining peak. Sure enough, it was full of spirit qi and would be of great help to his cultivation. Hearing Zhao Qingtian's words, he couldn't help but laugh. However, he didn't understand Qin Yushu's enthusiasm. Could it be that martial uncle didn't die? He immediately shook his head and dispelled the absurd thought in his mind. Looking at his two excited disciples, he said, Qingtian, sure, the spirit sensing technique is of great help to the Vajra esoteric art. You have to cultivate well. Yes, master. Zhao Qingtian and Sher Chao answered. Then Lu Kuan took out 2 magic tools. One was a blue flying needle, and the other was a blue brocade handkerchief. He said, Master will be cultivating in seclusion for the next few years and won't take a step out of the cave. These are the 2 magic tools I said I would give you last time. He said to Zhao Qingtian, you've reached the late stage of qi refining. With your martial art cultivation, your movement technique is very fast, but your attack power is low. This top-grade magic tool, Blue Silk Needle, has excellent speed and penetrating power. It's suitable for you. Zhao Qingtian laughed and hurriedly took the top-grade magic tool. He had just reached the late stage of chi refining and was worried about magic tools. He didn't expect his master to have already prepared it for him. Lu Kuan looked at Sher Chow, who was looking forward to it, and said, "Sure, you have a mutated spiritual root and can use all kinds of magic. Your attack power is strong, but your defense is your weakness. This blue water handkerchief is a top-grade defensive magic tool. Even I can't break it in a short time." Sher Chow's eyes lit up. She grabbed the beautiful handkerchief in her hand and was very happy. "Hee. Thank you, Master. Master knows what I need. With this, I can calmly release powerful magic." Lu Kuan said, "I specially added some materials to refine it. It matches the attributes of your techniques. With this, I'll be more at ease when you do missions. Go back. I'm going to cultivate in seclusion." "Yes, Master." Lu Kuan looked at the pair of brother and sister as they walked out. He took out a storage pouch, weighed in his hand, and said to himself, "I didn't think that the other Foundation establishment disciples in the sect would have some of these materials. Sai, other than the pair of Peerless Rod, the small knife Dharma artifact, and the flying boat, I had to use all my other Dharma artifacts and almost all my spirit stones to barely exchange for these materials." After Lu Kuan came out of Zhu Siming's cave, he went to Qin Yushu's cave. Only then did he know that the silver, ore, and other materials he wanted were not much in the sect storehouse. However, the Foundation Qi refining sect disciples had a lot. If it wasn't for Lu Kuan killing a few cultivators, he wouldn't have been able to gather so many spirit stones. Even though Qin Yushu is strong, he was also shocked by Lu Kuan's shocking wealth. Thinking of Qin Yushu's shocked expression, Lu Kuan couldn't help but smile. He put these materials to one side. Now is not the time to refine a full-body spirit-controlling magic tool. Lu Kuan thought carefully for a while. His whole body operated a primordial fire shield. At the same time, he ignited primordial fire outside the primordial fire shield. By the time the mana in his muscles was completely depleted, Lu Kuan only had a thin layer of mana left in his dantian. When he was on the Black Island in the center of the Smart Demon Valley, the mana in his dantian was not only exhausted by the yellow demon chi, but his entire foundation technique was also destroyed. However, Lu Kuan's mana in his muscles couldn't be destroyed. As long as the strength of his body didn't decrease, Lu Kuan could refine his mana in his muscles. Lu Kuan discovered this not long after he left the valley. He wasn't disappointed, but rather happy. In his plan to refine his body and purify his mana, the fire spirit chant didn't have any use. What was useful was the corresponding wood spirit chant. He wanted to cultivate the wood spirit chant. After Lu Kuan felt that the mana in his muscles had been completely exhausted, he carefully deduced the method to refine his body and purify his mana. Then he took out the pills that he exchanged at the crafting pavilion. With the spirit-controlling inner armor, he could absorb every pill cleanly. He planned to use these pills to cultivate to the middle stage of chi refinement. With one foundation establishment pill, he would rush to the late stage of chi refinement. As for the remaining foundation establishment pill, he would use it for other purposes. At the same time, Lu Kuan's cultivation plan also added the second half of the spirit sensing art. The second half of the spirit sensing art was divided into 3 stages: small success, large success, and perfection. Every time he cultivated a new realm, the power of his spiritual energy would increase. Zhu Siming had already cultivated the spirit sensing technique to perfection, so he was able to cultivate the improved spirit sensing technique in an instant, and his spiritual energy made another breakthrough. In the next few years, Lu Kuan's cave was tightly shut. Time flew, and the sun and moon were like shuttles. One day, 4 years after Lu Kuan's closed-door cultivation, a violent wind suddenly blew on the crafting peak. Black clouds covered the sun, and the spiritual energy within 100 miles of the Yang clan all gathered towards the crafting peak, forming a spiritual energy vortex. And in the center of the vortex was a cave on the 4th floor of the crafting peak. When the spiritual energy fluctuations appeared, the few core formation cultivators of the Yang clan opened their eyes. Some were puzzled, some were surprised, and some were looking in the direction of the crafting peak. The two core formation cultivators on the 5th floor of the crafting peak directly walked out and flew towards the 4th floor with a face full of surprise. The other mid and low-level disciples who were cultivating in closed-door cultivation were also awakened from their cultivation by this spiritual energy phenomenon. When they walked out of their caves and saw the scene in the sky, their faces turned pale with fright. Many knowledgeable foundation establishment disciples knew what this meant. This was a core formation heavenly phenomenon. This meant that their Yang clan had another core formation martial uncle. The strength of the entire clan would increase by another step. On the highest floor of the Yang clan's central mountain, two old men were playing chess on a stone table. One of them had a face like a crown jade and a head full of white hair with a lot of black hair. He looked younger and was in the early core formation stage. The other person had white hair and a youthful face. His aura was restrained, and he was like an old man next door. When the spiritual energy fluctuations appeared, the two old men were both surprised and surprised. The one with the face like a crown jade was full of joy and said, "Martial Uncle Fong, this must be Junior Brother Zhu. On the crafting peak, he is the only one who can form his gold core." I didn't think that Junior Brother Zhu would not only successfully break through to the fake core formation stage, but also form his gold core in one go. This old man with the face like a crown jade was Niao Wufeng, who was announced to be dead and had successfully formed his gold core. The only person he called martial uncle was the nascent soul stage ancestor of the clan. This old man with white hair and a youthful face said with some emotion, "Including you, our Yang clan suddenly has two more core formation stage cultivators." Also, Zhu Siming's talent is extraordinary. His cultivation method focuses on the cultivation of spiritual energy. After his breakthrough, his spiritual energy must be far beyond the middle core formation stage. The old man with white hair and a youthful face thought of something and said with a serious expression, "You just returned to the clan, so you may not know. A few years ago, the elders of the 5 sects of the Wei Kingdom came to me together and discussed with me in detail. Our Yang clan will join forces with them to deal with the Shangqing sect." Niao Wufeng's expression changed greatly, and he said in shock, "Deal with the Shangqing sect?" The old man said, "The Shangqing sect has been dominating the resource-rich Zhongzhou for thousands of years. The other sects have no other ideas because their strength is not as good. But in the past few hundred years, the Shangqing sect has relied on their strength to monopolize the resources of the other provinces of the Wei Kingdom. The interests of our Yang clan have also been implicated." Niao Wufeng showed a hesitant expression and said, "But the Shangqing sect not only has a late nascent soul stage cultivator, but also a large number of other high-level cultivators. We have a way to deal with the late nascent soul stage cultivator of the Shangqing sect. As for the other nascent soul stage and core formation stage cultivators of the Shangqing sect, they are much weaker than the other 6 sects combined. With the strength of our 6 sects, we have a greater chance of destroying them. Moreover, this kind of sect war is a great opportunity in itself. Maybe I can also gain something and improve my cultivation. Otherwise, those old guys wouldn't be so active." The nascent soul stage old man of the Yang clan muttered a few words in a low voice and said to Niao Wufeng, "At this time, the Yang clan has one more core formation stage cultivator on the surface and one more core formation stage powerhouse, like Martial Nephew Nia in the dark. Some things are very promising. In the next few years, you will..." Niao Wufeng listened respectfully at the side. After a while, the old man sensed something. "Hey, Zhu Siming and your 2 senior brothers are here. They all know of your existence. Lead them to the peak." "Yes, martial uncle." Not to mention the discussion of the higher-ups of the sects, Lu Kuan was also awakened by the surging spiritual qi in the cave abode. He felt the surging spiritual qi outside. He muttered, "Could it be that some elder's cultivation has improved greatly and produced spiritual qi fluctuations?" That's right, before I went into seclusion, Martial Uncle Zhu had already reached the false core stage. With such a big movement, could it be that Martial Uncle Zhu has reached the core formation stage? Then Lu Kuan looked at his own body and felt his progress. He was quite satisfied. In the first 2 years, Lu Kuan relied on the medicinal effects of the qi, enhancing medicinal pills, to cultivate his wood spirit incantation to the 6th level. Then, with the help of a foundation establishment pill, he spent half a year to break through several bottlenecks and reach the 11th level of qi refining. After that, he began to cultivate the soul sensing art. With the help of his strong and sensitive muscles and the wooden bracelet on his chest, he was barely able to cultivate this art to the small success stage. However, the later parts of the art were very difficult to cultivate. It would be very difficult to improve in a short time. Now that the power of my divine sense has improved greatly, I don't have much time to continue cultivating the soul sensing art. Currently, the power of his divine sense had far surpassed that of an ordinary cultivator who had completed the great circle of qi refining. However, it was still a bit away from the foundation establishment stage. I only need to consume the Crimson Fire Royal Jelly, and the power of my divine sense will meet the requirements. Next, I need to refine the spirit-controlling immortal tool. Chapter 147. At the entrance of the Earth Fire Hall, there was a dark-faced man at the 10th level of qi refinement. When he saw a burly man enter, his eyes lit up as he said, "So, senior brother Lu has already come out of seclusion. Are you here to refine weapons?" When Lu Kuan saw the dark-faced man, he smiled and said, "Not bad. Junior brother Ma, after not seeing you for a few years, you have already reached the late stages of qi refinement. Your cultivation has improved very quickly." When the dark-faced man heard Lu Kuan's praise, his face turned slightly red as he said, "Senior brother, you're teasing me. In 4 years, I only went from the 9th level of qi refinement to the 10th level of qi refinement. How would I dare to say that I improved very quickly? There is a huge difference between the late stages of qi refinement and the middle stages of qi refinement. By the way, is the refinement room in the deepest part empty?" The dark-faced man hurriedly said, "It's empty. That room is rather expensive, and very few qi refinement disciples go there to refine weapons. Therefore, it has always been empty." Lu Kuan threw a mid-tier spirit stone at him and turned to walk into the depths of the Earth Fire Hall. His deep voice sounded, "This time it will take about a month. Just open the room." When the dark-faced man heard this, he activated an artifact in his hand and opened the door to the room. Seeing Lu Kuan's back as he entered, he revealed a puzzled look and muttered, "For years ago, senior brother Lu was at the great perfection of qi refinement. Why is he only at the 11th level of qi refinement after 4 years? Furthermore, his magic power has changed. Could it be that senior brother Lu has recultivated his cultivation technique in the past 4 years? Impossible. Even if it's a single elemental celestial spirit root, it's impossible for him to recultivate his cultivation technique to the 11th level in such a short period of time. Could it be that senior brother used some sort of spell to mislead me? Yes, it must be so." After muttering to himself for a while, the dark-faced man took the mid-grade spirit stone that Lu Kuan had given him and revealed a satisfied smile. Renting such an expensive refining room, he would get a bigger share of the profits. After entering the room, Lu Kuan naturally didn't know about the mutterings of the disciple behind him. Instead, he took out a storage bag in a rather dignified manner. A green light flashed in his hand, and the contents of the bag scattered on the ground. Looking at the densely packed materials on the ground, he felt a little dizzy. This was a huge project. He needed to refine all the spirit-controlling immortal treasures except for his dantian and forearm. This time, Lu Kuan planned to use the traditional method of refining tools. One of the reasons was that he had the wood-type magic power of the 11th layer of the qi refining stage in a spiritual sense that surpassed the great circle of the Qi refining stage. The second reason was that he wanted to test the characteristics of the wood attribute magic power, to see if it was the same as what he had guessed. Another point was that Lu Kuan had sold the crafting hammer when he was exchanging for the materials for the spirit-controlling immortal artifact. Next, Lu Kuan waved his hand and used the telekinesis technique to throw several materials into the earth fire. His powerful divine sense spread out and felt the degree of change of the materials. Lu Kuan closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. He increased the output of his magic power and immediately discovered that the refining speed of this material had increased by a lot. Upon closer inspection, one would notice that the earth fire around the materials had become more vigorous. A look of realization gradually appeared on his face. A month's time was not fast. During this period, the entire Yang clan was immersed in joy, especially the disciples of the weapon refining peak. All of them were abnormally excited. Everyone in the Yang clan knew that Zhu Siming of the weapon refining peak had successfully advanced to the core formation stage and became the third core formation stage cultivator of the weapon refining peak. Furthermore, with Zhu Siming's attainments in weapon refining, his level of weapon refining after the core formation stage was even more unfathomable. Some well-informed core formation stage cultivators from other sects even prepared some materials and treasures for weapon refining and planned to head to the Yang clan to ask this newly advanced core formation stage cultivator, who was famous in Wei Nation for his array carving, to refine their Dharma treasures. Zhu Siming had also moved from the fourth layer of the weapon refining peak to the top of the fifth layer because he had advanced to the core formation stage. Although the fifth layer was not big, it was more than enough to accommodate 3 cave abodes. As such, only 2 foundation establishment stage cultivators lived on the fourth layer, and it seemed a little spacious. The 3 core formation stage patriarchs issued an order that the weapon refining peak would hold a foundation establishment stage battle and choose new foundation establishment stage disciples to live on the fourth layer. After all, no mountain had more people on the fifth layer than the fourth layer. Previously, although Qin Yushu had just advanced to the foundation establishment stage, his strength was even stronger than that of the mid-stage foundation establishment stage. In addition, with the recommendation of 2 foundation establishment stage weapon refinement masters and a core formation stage martial uncle, he was able to live on the fourth layer. After hearing this news, many foundation establishment stage disciples began to rub their fists and prepare to fight for this cave abode. Even many Qi refinement stage disciples were extremely excited. Although Lu Kuan felt that the disciples of the weapon refining peak were a little strange, he did not inquire about it, because he still had important things to do. At this time, he and Xiao Jin were in the cave abode. The little gray monkey was holding a small bottle in his hand and looked curiously at Lu Kuan, who was wrapped in silver soft armor. Lu Kuan planned to try to build his foundation. Xiao Jin might not be able to use his method, but his divine ability was a little strange. Perhaps he could really replicate it. Therefore, he called Xiao Jin to his side and hoped that Xiao Jin could help him. Lu Kuan looked quite nervous. With his powerful divine sense, he had already successfully refined these spiritual controlling instruments. This was the first time he used them all over his body. Then, Lu Kuan closed his eyes and first used the elemental fire body tempering technique to absorb the spiritual energy around him. Then, he let his powerful divine sense envelop his entire body. With the help of the spiritual controlling instruments, he converted the spiritual energy into fire elemental mana. For a whole 4 years, Lu Kuan let his muscles empty of mana. After this fire elemental mana surged into his flesh, his muscles all over his body let out waves of comfortable moans. It was like a long-awaited sweet dew, a withered tree in spring. Not long after, the mana in his muscles was full, emitting a powerful aura. However, Lu Kuan did not reveal a comfortable expression. Instead, he felt the situation in his body very seriously. The fire elemental mana in his muscles and the wood elemental mana in his dantian did not conflict for the time being. Then, Lu Kuan took out a medicinal pill wrapped in a layer of mud. It was the Foundation Establishment pill. He put it in his mouth and did not melt. Smelt the body, refine the mana, and promote to the Foundation Establishment stage. Success or failure depends on this. Lu Kuan's whole body emitted a shocking aura. A layer of fiery red shield appeared on the surface of his body. It was the elemental fire shield. Then, Lu Kuan's muscles all over his body twisted strangely. The outermost layer of the elemental fire shield actually sank into his skin. If one had a powerful divine sense, they would discover that this layer of elemental fire shield was tightly attached to the joints between his muscles and bones, between his muscles and organs. This elemental fire shield isolated Lu Kuan's muscles from the other parts of his body. Then, a red and white flame appeared outside Lu Kuan's body. This flame quickly covered his entire body. What is the elemental fire body tempering art? This is the true elemental fire body tempering art. Lu Kuan's face revealed a ruthless expression. With a loud roar, the elemental fire all over his body actually sank into his skin, directly burning all his muscles. It turned out that the elemental fire shield was only used to protect his internal organs and bones. It allowed his muscles to be burned fiercely by the elemental fire. In just an instant, Xiao Hui, who was at the side, smelled the smell of barbecued meat and anxiously squeaked. Then, the wood elemental mana in Lu Kuan's body from the 11th layer of Qi refinement surged and spread to every part of his body. The originally burned muscles began to recover. At this moment, Lu Kuan used the recovery method of the elemental wood body tempering art. The 11th layer of wood elemental mana in his dantian was actually used as a top-grade elemental spirit stone. The little gray monkey's ears emitted bursts of golden light. The monkey's face was full of shock, as if it could see the situation inside Lu Kuan's body. Lu Kuan's expression was abnormally ferocious. The nerves in his muscles were very strong, which meant that his nerves were extremely sensitive. The pain of being burned by the elemental fire seemed to be magnified 100 times. At the same time, the recovery method of the elemental wood body tempering art made his muscles feel numb and itchy. These two kinds of pain were constantly intertwined. If a woman's labor was a 12th grade pain, then Lu Kuan's pain was at least a 24th grade. He gritted his teeth and endured the pain. While he could feel the muscles in his body rapidly growing during the burning and recovery process, he felt that his method was correct. All the elemental fire was produced by the fire elemental mana in his muscles. The mana was constantly being consumed, but with the existence of the spirit-controlling dermic artifact, Lu Kuan could constantly replenish the mana in his muscles. The spirit-controlling dermic artifact couldn't be used at the same time, so the wood elemental mana in his dantian was also rapidly being consumed. When more than half of the wood elemental mana was consumed, Lu Kuan swallowed the Foundation Establishment pill in his mouth. The Foundation Establishment pill emitted a huge amount of medicinal power that dissolved in his body. Waves of medicinal power were refined into pure wood elemental mana to replenish his body. Time continued to pass. Lu Kuan had been burning for a day and a night. At this point, the elemental fire was no longer able to destroy the greatly strengthened muscles in a short period of time. The loss of wood elemental mana slowed down, but there was still a lot of medicinal power left in the Foundation Establishment pill. Under the situation where more was entering and less was being expended, the mana in his dantian was immediately filled to the brim. It even showed signs of liquefying. My muscles have been greatly strengthened, but there's still a long way to go before there's a qualitative change. Lu Kuan sensed the changes in the wood elemental mana in his dantian. He had already expected this. He divided all the wood elemental mana into 2 portions, and 10% of it surged toward the elemental fire. Crackle. The elemental fire in his entire body seemed to have become more vigorous, almost turning into white flames. Feeling the degree of burning of his muscles and the speed of recovery of the elemental wood body tempering art, Lu Kuan gritted his teeth and shouted, "Ignite the fire with wood. Smelt the body. Burn it fiercely." At this moment, he injected 50% of the wood elemental mana into his muscles and used the other 50% to maintain the recovery of his muscles. At this moment, the elemental fire had completely turned white. The fire elemental mana in his muscles was rapidly boiling under the intertwining of the wood elemental mana. The smell of roasted meat came from his muscles again. Lu Kuan was sweating profusely. He gave Xiao Jin a look and opened his mouth slightly. Xiao Jin and Lu Kuan had the same bloodline, so he immediately understood Lu Kuan's meaning. He opened the small bottle in his hand and poured the golden liquid into Lu Kuan's mouth. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.